Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Grab Matters podcast. Today we welcome on a very special guest, Dallas Friday. Dallas Friday is easily one of the best wakeboarders to ever do the sport, and she's the only wakeboarder to ever win an ESPY. We talk about her being on the cartoon show Kim Possible and still receiving some royalties lately. We talk about scary injuries, her recovery processes from those, how wakeboarding has evolved over the years, her ESPN body issue, and a ton of other stuff with her. Really great conversation. If you guys are interested in supporting the podcast, joining the Patreon is the best way to do that. Everyone who joins gets a free sticker pack shipped out to you no matter where you're at in the world. And you guys can also see who the guests are early, submit questions to them, as well as see some more exclusive content that I have up on that Patreon as well. Means a ton to me, really helps keep the podcast going, like I was saying. Also, we do have a new mug up on the website. It's a black mug. It holds 11 ounces of tequila, milk, or any liquid you want to put in there. Also, some other stuff on grabmatters.com if you guys are interested in checking that out. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoy.
I approve waterboarding.
They're talking about wakeboarding. The thing about wakeboarding, every trick is an invert.
Backside.
One air railing.
A new dimension.
All right, we're back. Another episode of the Grab Matters podcast. Today we welcome on a very special guest, Dallas Friday. Dallas, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. I'm very excited for this one. First, two quick questions. Wake pants, yes or no?
Wake pants. Oh my gosh. I definitely had 2 pairs of Jet Pilot wake pants, for sure. And I remember these other pants that they were called Fat Crack. And they actually had a see-through, imagine ceramic wrap, where you could see the crack of your butt.
Like ass's
This
chaps.
is back in the day, yes. It was actually a company, and they were called Fat Crack. Isn't that awesome?
I had no idea.
I don't know if they're still around, but that was around board pants days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd say yes to wake pants?
I did have a pair of the Fat Crack. I didn't really wear them. I had bottoms on them.
Okay. Yeah.
But yes, I did have 2 pairs of board pants.
Okay. I like it. I'm a big fan of wake pants. What's your favorite grab?
My favorite to do or to watch, to see?
Either.
Just
both.
a big indie shifty. Like it could be an indie shifty glide. It could just be an indie shifty toe side indie shifty. I don't know. I like it because you go up, you get pop, and it's just something to poke.
You really poke it.
Really simple
To do,
but
or
you can
to-
do big. I like doing them off the double up, and I did them big out in the flats, but and I did an indie glide type kind of shifty thing before, and I like doing toe side indie shifties. I don't know.
I agree. That's my favorite. One of my favorite toe side wake to wake tricks. Toe side indie shifty.
Stop copying me.
Well, I didn't know the answer until now. So
You're good.
all right, let's dive into the early days before we get into some of the competitive career and the highlights of your career. Just run us through where you're from and where you grew up.
I'm from Orlando, Florida, born and raised. I live on Lake Holden. I bought a house about 5 houses down from my parents, so I've lived in the same neighborhood my entire life. So my neighbors know me since I was a little girl trick-or-treating.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So
very
haven't moved
cool.
far.
Yeah, haven't moved far.
Okay. So when did you get into water sports first? Was that your first experience of sports, or were you into other sports before this?
Well,
Before wakeboarding?
this is actually really cool. So my mom met my dad at SeaWorld. My mom was a show skier. She skied at Cypress Gardens, and she also skied at SeaWorld, where she met my father. And she skied with Joni Hansen and Parks' mom, Betty. So it's kind of funny that I became a world champion. Trevor, champion, and then Parks champion, and she skied with all of them. She was actually in Jaws 3. She was in the tower. I know that's a terrible movie. Terrible.
I never saw Jaws 3. OG
Oh,
one,
please
that's
don't
great.
ever watch it. But she was in it. She was in the top of the skier tower thing that they make. Yeah.
Okay. So your mom was a water show skier. Your dad, was he involved in water sports at all?
Yeah, a little bit. He was with penguins first, then he moved to dolphins and then killer whales. But he bought a ski antique in 86, 2001. When I was really young, we still have it sitting in the driveway. It's all done up and brand new, it's restored.
Yeah.
Because my brother used to pull the plug and fill it up with water, and my dad gets so mad because we wanted bigger wakes, and now he's never put it in the water since he's redone it. It's still sitting there. We'll never sell it. I would buy that boat before I let him sell it.
Yeah, you couldn't sell that.
Yeah, no. It's a great year boat, too.
Okay. So I guess when did you first get started? Was it water skiing probably?
I remember at a young age, at kneeboarding. It wasn't wakeboard. I mean, this is at the age of probably 3 or 4. And I remember just singing my church songs on the kneeboard, and I'd just be zoned out. And then I learned how to water ski and then drop a ski. Never got into slalom. tubing was never something we got into. It was mostly like kneeboarding, like doing we'd stand up on the kneeboard, me and my brothers. And then after that, I got into gymnastics, and I did
Okay, I was going to ask about gymnastics.
Really competitive, high level. I got to level 10. I started at the age of, I want to say, 6 or 7, and I did it till I was 12. And it was my dream to be an Olympic gymnast. Every gymnast wants to be an Olympic gymnast.
And then wakeboarding came along.
And then I got kicked out of gymnastics for cheating at conditioning. And he said, Friday, you're out of here.
What did you do? What happened?
He said, 2 weeks, come see me, and I'll see if I'll let you back. It was probably my partner told me for not doing the 100 sets of 100 push, whatever it might have been. Yeah, I cheated in something in conditioning. Someone told on me, I guess. And in those 2 weeks, I tried wakeboarding. And you got to understand, I was at the age of 12. So I have 2 older brothers. So I was 12. Chad was 13. Robin was 14, because it's bam, bam, bam. And they were out on the boat with their friends wakeboarding. So that's like, cute boys out on a boat, but I loved wakeboarding. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to do gymnastics every day for the rest of my life, because gymnastics, when you do it, it's your life. You get out of school at 3 o'clock, you start at 4, you don't get out till 9.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was every day. I mean, I loved it, don't get me wrong, but the thought of doing that every day and not getting to try anything else, I never really thought about trying anything else because nothing was presented to me.
Okay.
And I tried it and told Jeff, I think I'm good.
Okay, so even at that young of an age, you saw how much time and you'd have to be fully dedicated to gymnastics, not being able to expose to a lot of other stuff. And then you started wakeboarding, and it was in that 2-week span.
It was in that 2-week span. I actually went out on the boat twice, and I loved it. I just want to learn to flip. I got up right away. I got up first try, and I was moving around. My brother would try to tug on the rope, and then I remember him stopping in front of the island. I start crying because of the gators. I was just scared. But they would make me try flips. They'd be like, "We're not taking you unless you try flips." And knowing me, I was probably just wanting to try to show off or just, be entertainment.
Yeah.
I would just start throwing flips. And, something I love. Me and my brothers were best friends growing up, Like, I used to carry him on my back, and I'd see how many times I could go around my house. I mean, we'd play football, basketball. We'd do all kinds of stuff together. So being out on the boat with them and their friends and just being out on the water was just a different experience, like, in that matter. And it was something nothing could replace it. That was more fun.
So it was you, your brothers, primarily, probably some of their buddies too, and your friends. Okay. And what boat did you say that
was? It was a
first
Ski
one?
Antique 86 2001.
And that was the first boat you guys had?
That was the first boat, yep. We had a pylon tower.
Okay.
No, we didn't. We just had the one that was like behind the engine. Yeah, we never got a tower put on it. That's right.
You never got
No, it was my neighbor that had one, but we did ride behind it. We just had the rope low. Not low on the back by the platform, but it was right by the motor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess walk us through those first few years, because it's you and your brothers wakeboarding, having fun. Like, when's the progression and the kind of taking it seriously start?
Well, I was just having fun, and I'm really eager to learn. I love learning, and I love challenges, and I just always have been that kind of person, especially with a gymnastics background. You're very disciplined. You're very, you know hard work, and hard work is actually fun. And so you're eager to learn. And when you find something you become passionate about and you just really enjoy, and your friends are with you, I mean, what better secret sauce than that? So I told my mom, I wanted to try maybe diving. I was looking into, and I did track in high school. I did pole vaulting, and I was a sprinter, just short distance. But once I tried wakeboarding, I was like, Mom, this is what I want to do. My brother said, she could be really good and build up her form at ski and surf. Told my mom, if you're serious and she wants to get lessons, you have to take her to see this guy over at Orlando Water Sports Complex named Ferraro, Mike Ferraro. And so my mom takes me over there, and, I'm sure Mike gets this all the time, and the way he explains it and the way I remember is like, we have other coaches I can watch her ride. What my mom said was like, no, but we heard that you were the one. We want you to take her out and watch her. So he took me out on the water and watched me ride a little bit. I could jump around and whatnot, and I think throw flip but not have the handle or anything. But I didn't have my basics down.
Yeah.
And I think he told my mom that he'll work with me for a few weeks, and just and then kind of like analyze me, I guess, and then give me direction on what he thinks. So after those few weeks came up, he took my parents out to dinner. That's kind of a funny story. Took my parents. He said, "I'd like to take you guys out to dinner," and he told my parents. He goes, Dallas, she's really good. I see a lot of potential here. I see a lot of potential. She loves it. She's eager to learn. She listens, and she's not scared. She's fearless. And if she's a good listener and she doesn't get hurt, I think she could be the first wakeboarder to make $1 million. And women's wakeboarder to make $1 million.
Sure.
And he said that my parents looked at him like he was from Mars. Like they looked at him like.
Okay, so what year about would you say this is?
That would have been, I started wakeboarding in 99, so I would say towards the end of 99, and it must have been probably at the end of 99 or 2000 because I turned pro in 2000. Okay. 1 year within wakeboarding.
So let's talk about, because I think that was a great time to talk about you and Mike and like the progression of, so you're at his camp or he's coaching you, whatever.
It was called Mike's Place.
Mike's Place.
So Mike's Place 99.com. That's what it was. So it was 99. I just remember.
Perfect. Okay.
And he had these flyers. Yeah, it was funny.
Okay, so how does that go from he takes your parents out? Okay, she can be the first girl.
Then I just started, I had practice sessions. I want to say it started out twice a week.
Okay.
I would go after school. And I'd have a lesson, and then eventually Mike's like, well, you need to go ride cable. So I was a cable rat. I was at OWC riding before there was even 2 cables. I was at OWC riding before there were rails. I was at OWC riding when they had their first rail, which was a launch ramp. I don't even know how to explain it. It's exactly how it sounds. So I've been there for so long. And I'd started riding the cable too every day.
So what would you do on the cable if there's no features?
You know what? I don't want to sound like I'm full of myself, but you know why Dallas Friday rides the way Dallas Friday rides? From the cable. We go high speed, slalom course, switch and regular, finless and non-finless. You know how I swing out wide and I use that transition in the arc when I ride? I do the same. I still do that to this day.
That's where it all started.
And that's where probably big Rayleigh's S-bends and just going big and being aggressive and charging it.
Okay.
So yeah,
cable ride, Dallas Friday. Okay.
Yeah, but not rails and not air
Pre-rails.
tricks. Yeah, this is a slalom ski course, like high speed, switch and regular, no fins in the chop. He would have me do it all, and honestly, that's what built my riding. And I would come into the wake just ripping.
Okay, so you're riding cable. You're with him twice a week. You said you went pro in what, 2000 or 2001?
It was 2000.
2000. Okay, so how does this progress from with him twice a week to all of a sudden now you're doing contests, I'm sure, and you're probably doing well right away if you're going pro in 2000.
No, I didn't. Okay, so I think we kind of I did a gravel tour, and I think I took second place. Okay. But it was like the last one of the 3 that they do or something. And so then it was, then 2000. So that would have been in 99. So then 2000 was my first year. I decided I wanted to. He's like, you should do the pro women's division. And I had maybe like 8-10 tricks and a spin somewhat consistent.
So what kind of tricks are we talking? 8-10 tricks?
8-10 tricks, it would be...
Gotta be back there.
I think I want to say I was doing a Rayleigh by then. Big tantrum, big front roll, big back roll, big scarecrow.
Use the word big in all 4 of those. So we're talking going to the flats.
If you go back, they're way outside the flats. They're not like in that hard spot. They're past the hard spot.
I'm going to put a video in right now because
yes, 100%. And then turn around, and I probably did toe side, back roll, heel side 3, toe side roll to revert, and probably a 180 of some sort. That probably was like one of my first runs. Okay. But that whole first season, you got to understand, I was really excited. It wasn't that I couldn't land the tricks in practice. I could land them, but I get so excited wanting to just charge it. And I'd over-rotate, and I get butterflies. Not nervous, but just excited. I didn't know how to tame that down. Okay. And but then I got to a point where I want to make a finals. Why can't I make a finals? And when I made a finals, it's kind of an interesting story. I made the finals. The last contest of that season was called the America's Cup, and it was down in West Palm Beach at Lake Okeechobee. And it was the America's Cup, and it was the only event they've ever done where they have multiple boat sponsors at the event. You pick the boat you want to ride behind. Malibu approached me, Amy Mozzie and Paul Singer, that now work for Centurion, approached me and asked me if I want to ride behind a Malibu. And I was like, sure, yeah, I'd love to ride behind your boat. And I ended up landing my run in the semis and landing it in the finals and took that win. So after all season not making it through, not doing very well, I won that last women's pro tour event, and I picked up Malibu as a sponsor. And then the next year, and then I just went on. I think I won the next 3 years, basically. I got hurt.
I do have some stats on the next few years, but I did not know that there was a contest back then that you picked the boat you rode behind.
Isn't that cool? I think it would be really cool if they did that now.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, oh, you can't have logos. But I mean, like, why not have athletes ride behind whatever they want to ride behind? You know, and more sponsors, more money, more people, you know,
it's also more interesting.
The whole industry. Yes, It's very interesting. I think it would be really cool to do that. And I've always said that now to this day. Why that America's Cup was such a cool, format.
Very cool. Okay. So 2000,
I still have the check. It was $6,000 I won. I bought a Murphy bed that goes in your wall.
Really? Were you still living at home at this time?
Yeah, I was 13.
Okay, that would make sense. 13. I don't know. I don't know.
That's still middle school age. What do you think I'm doing?
Well, you're the first woman that's going to make $1 million, so I don't know when you're buying a house at this point, Dallas. Okay, so 2000 went okay for you because at the end you got some success. 2001. So I got some stats here.
Okay.
From 2001.
Can I have a copy of what you have?
Absolutely not.
I feel like we're in court. I need a copy. I object.
I didn't pass the bar, so it's okay. So from 2001 to 2006, you won 54 out of 68 events.
Wait, say that one more time.
From 2001 to 2006, you won 54 out of 68 events that you entered in.
How did you find all that?
I added it up.
You're a weirdo.
Yeah. I started a wakeboard podcast, so that's in 2003 and 2005, you didn't lose any contest that you entered in those 2 years. So I'm trying to set the scene.
I know that I did miss I wasn't undefeated because I did get hurt a few times in this process. So that there was a small window, whether that be a little meniscus tear, I might have been out, or coming back from an injury. And that's what it typically was. Is when I didn't win, it was because I was just coming back from an injury, or I was not moving around very well. I can't remember.
Well, these stats are from the wakeboardsite.com, so they might not be 100% accurate, but it's pretty close in terms of the events that you won, entered, and the events that you didn't lose. So, and I think we can get into injuries in a little bit. So I'm still curious on the beginning of this competitive career, because it sounds like 2000 went well at the end, and then 2001, like, just set the scene. 2001, you going into that year.
That's really hard for because they all kind of like I've been wakeboarding for 25 years, so that they all, especially in the early years, from like 2001 to 2009, is really hard for me to
There's a lot.
Tell them apart, because it was so many events back then too. I mean, there would be 3 Vans Triple Crown events, and you have the PWT, and then you have Gravity Games, X Games, Nationals, Worlds, Masters. There were so many different events. Malibu Opens, Invitationals. There was just so many different events. It's hard to really tell what year from what year. I do remember going 2001 to San Francisco to my first X Games. Or was it 2000 I did that? I think it was 2000 I did that.
Was it 2000?
Yeah, I did, and I got second at San Francisco. Tara Hamilton got first. And then 2000.
In the next 4 years, you won, right?
I won my first X Games, and that was in Schuylkill River, Philadelphia.
It was in Philly that year.
It was in Philly. Okay. Yes.
Run us through that, because that's a huge deal. X Games.
That was a hard. Oh, this is kind of a crazy. Okay, this is why I don't remember that X Games that well. All right, and this is a true story. Right when I got back from winning the X Games, I just got into high school. That's right, because I just had my first day. And then I went to ride with Mike afterwards, and I did a whirly bird, and I kneed myself in the chin, and I knocked myself out cold completely. Couldn't remember the last week. Did not remember my first day of high school. Didn't remember going to the X Games, winning the X Games, nothing. He had to call my mom to come pick me up. So, and during that time, Mike, if you knew Mike Ferraro, you'd understand. I've met Mike. He was trying to tell me I was dating Philip Sylvan at the time. He was trying to tell me that I was like, and messing with me, just like he would do. He still does all the time. But yeah, I barely remember that still. That I don't remember going to high school, my first day of high school, and I really don't. It's like I remember flashes of kind of that X Games.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that's possible, but
Totally.
yeah, I do remember they'd wash our boards off in us because the water was really dirty.
They'd wash your boards off.
They'd
after
like
each
make
round?
sure that we don't go underwater. They'd wash us off, like they'd
Oh.
like everything because it was not a lake, it was a river, and it's like where they do.
It's probably like downtown
kayak.
too, right?
Yeah, it was in the middle of downtown. But
Nasty. I'm sure they're dumping
oh,
all sorts of nasty
yeah,
stuff
it was
in
pretty
there.
gross.
Okay, so 2001, you pretty much win a ton of contests, but you're still in high school. So
Yeah, my first
what's
year.
What's that like? Are you balancing school a little bit? Obviously, the season's in the summer, so not a ton.
It's so surreal to think of. I was just having so much fun and just living in the moment. You know, like it's almost like a dream. You know, I remember going to high school. I never was really into school. I didn't get good grades. I've always had a little bit of a learning disability, reading comprehension. So I really struggled with school. I think the only reason I passed is because I did my homework. I test terribly. But I did do the track team, and then they asked me to try pole vaulting, and I tried that, and the school ended up getting me my own pole vault, which had Oakley stickers, Fox stickers, and all like my sponsor stickers on it. And then I remember I donated it to the school when I left because I dropped out in 10th grade. And they still fight over it to this day, apparently.
They still have it.
They still,
Well,
yeah,
they
that's
should.
well, this was about 5 years ago. I ran into one of the coaches, and he said, yeah, for years they fought over who got to use your
That's
pole vault.
awesome. That's super cool.
But yeah, I dropped out of school. Legal age was 16. That sounds horrible, but I told my parents, you know, I wanted to train. I didn't see school back then too. Here, it was not good news. You know, I went to a private school, middle school, the First Academy, and then I went to Boone, and it was just not my scene. And you know, it wasn't.
What do you mean by that? Not your
It
scene.
was it just party. You know, there was
Okay.
drinking. They're sneaking out of the house, and yeah, I maybe dabbled into that a little bit, but I was more about what am I going to learn with Mike tomorrow, like. What am I going to try to do on that flat rail looking thing that's out there, you know, like, and I just loved being active and just wanted to, I knew that I was destined for something else, and I didn't see myself staying in high school. So my parents agreed if I go to night school, get my GED, I could drop out. And because there were events all the time. I mean, this is constantly. And that's when I dropped out at the age of 16. That's when my career just really
Skyrocket.
yeah, I mean, it was one of the best things I think I could have ever done for myself.
Absolutely.
And not that I would ever advise a parent to not, if anything, I would tell a parent, like, make your kids stay in school, because that's something I wish I would have had a better education. But it's where.
It's a tough balance though, because you
It's a
can
tough
always go
balance,
back to
but-
school. You can
No,
go to
but
school
when
at
you're in
40,
ninth,
right?
when you're in ninth grade, no.
After you get your GED, I mean, you can.
Yeah. But you know what? I can't believe I'm going to say this. I lied. I didn't actually ever get my GED because, hold on. I know this is terrible. I'm never going to have a real job. Because if you missed a class, it was twice a week. If you missed 2 classes in a row, you had to pay $60 to sign back up. And I got kicked out so many times if I missed a class from photo shoots with Joey. I remember Joey met my mom. I'm like, I ain't going to night school. We're still shooting this evening. You know, we'd be out shooting for Wakeboard magazine. And I'd be traveling. And it wasn't idealistic. I mean, the sunset hour.
I mean,
And so I said I'd go back and I'd get it. And then I just never did. And do I want to go back and get it now? No, not really, because I don't even think that'd be work I really don't want to do.
I mean, I feel like you've probably learned a lot more than a GED
I have,
would really
I have,
give.
but in education, I mean, as
It
far as
is
getting
cool.
a job and just what today's world is, you know, considered.
A piece of paper, a lot of people value
Yes.
the piece of paper.
Yes,
so. But,
exactly.
Okay, so you're talking about, you know, going to night school, get the GED, but obviously the opportunities in wakeboarding they're just too good to pass up. I mean, it's too.
I can't even tell you all the things that I was doing, from going to Lake Shasta and shooting for Activision and doing the video game. Sean Murray's pro wakeboarder, and just all kinds of stuff. ESPN, Cosmo Girls, 17 magazine. There was just something constantly. Southern Living. There was something I was always doing. A few TV shows. I was always doing something.
Yeah.
It was just insane, the amount of stuff that came my way. It's hard to believe.
Okay, so let's talk. Still in this 2000, 2001, 2002, early 2000s. You said you're on Malibu now. You kind of had that deal. What other sponsors at this time, are approaching you and you're signing with? You said Oakley, you had a couple
I
others
wish I
there.
just would have brought my this big old stack of 50 photo albums.
I mean, what are some of the big ones that are,
No. I mean, I remember, for instance, Oakley picked me up right before X Games because it was like, people would say it was a Dallas Friday episode because literally and I did fly to Long Beach and I did with Bucky Lassick, Mike Metzger, Brian Deegan, like all those guys. We do like a pre-commercial and it was like, up next, wakeboarder, da-da-da-da. And then it would say, like, what's Dallas going to do? And then they do even, like, a percentage of how many you think will Dallas win or three-time X Games. And it would be, like, 70% says yes, 70% says
the fan vote or whatever.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. And, I mean, I forgot what the question was.
Sponsors. So you said Oakley.
Sponsors. Oakley picked me up. And this is kind of a weird thing. But, yeah, Oakley they wanted just TV time. Of course. So, yeah, let's pay you. I think they paid me $1,500 a month. They said, hey, we'll sign you $1,500 a month. I was like, sweet. That's pretty good for then. I mean, not as much as some of my other sponsors, but I mean, for last minute. And basically that's what it was because I swear I only rode for Oakley for maybe 2-3 years. Yeah. And I think they're out of wake industry almost completely now. So, I mean, but all these little things, especially with sponsors, I really learned, and I think the sports community and especially the wakeboard community in the industry, you really, being in it for so long, you learn how it works. And some of it's saddening and unfortunate, but, it's reality too. Some people just want to pay you for something and they have no use for you. But I was really fortunate. Fox Racing, Todd Hicks was my team manager. I mean, these people were my family. Yeah. And now I'm still with not Malibu, but Paul signed me, with the people that were originally with me when my career started. And that's a really cool feeling, which they told me 2 years ago. I said, hey, do I get photo incentives, bonuses for winning these events and such? And they go, no, but I don't even know if I should be saying this, but we want to give you a raise because we don't find value in those.
The contest. And
we find value in you as a person and what you stand for and what you do for the sport. And I mean, that was such a moment of it was just an amazing moment to hear that because they're investing in me as a person versus, just your
720 or your 360 or whatever.
Or my standings. Yes, exactly. And that's what it should be about. And I still talk to Todd Hicks, from Fox, like we're still texting, he's like, are you going to be coming for a golfer now? Or like, stuff like that. But you create, and I've always been, I was with O'Brien for almost 15 years or so. And that was kind of a falling out. And that really hurt because I felt like that was my family. And when people do it in a way where they don't even give you a heads up and it's just like all of a sudden all the blue and then make up something different than what it is, it's really just like, wow, that's how much you care about me. Which Todd, when Fox was coming out of the industry, he said, Dallas, I just want to let you know this may happen next year and in the future. And I just want to let you know. So if anything comes your way, I don't want you to not miss out on it, And that's what family does. And that's what people 100%. That look out for you do. And I don't think there's enough of that nowadays. And
couldn't agree more.
Everything
with that,
is about sales and, exposure. But, what about just being
the human factor,
a character. Yeah. And just who you are.
Okay. So you said we were talking Malibu. You got a couple others, Oakley.
This is terrible, by the way. Sorry.
You don't like this?
No.
Is it too sweet?
Oh, it's sparkling. I don't like.
You don't like the fake?
Carbonated drinks, yeah.
You don't like carbonated drinks?
I don't like any carbonated drinks.
Oh, well, then that's...
Mountain Dew, kind of.
Mountain Dew's very carbonated. Okay, so I'm curious, before we get into some later years, how did you mentally prepare for contests? Because that first year you said you got butterflies, you got super excited. How did that change? Obviously, then you start winning. Did something in your preparation change?
I think, no, not really. I think it was just I needed confidence. You needed to know and go out and perform and compete how you do in practice. And then once you do that, and then the aftermath is a win, and you get through and you have your best run, it's the confidence that you build.
So you had to get a couple down to believe, like,
once you're it's just like in any other sport. You see, once someone's winning on the PGA, they're staying on the PGA, and you will see them up on the top at many of the events that year.
Hey, they say all it takes is one.
Yeah,
sometimes all it takes is one.
Really.
Yeah. Who were you riding with back in these days?
Oh gosh,
early 2000s. Some of the crews you ride with.
In 2000s, I was riding. Well, I lived over when I was 17. I was dating a guy named Perry Richmond that was from California, and he lived in Kobe's rental across the lake from my parents.
Kobe Mikasic.
Yeah,
Okay.
and basically, so I basically lived there. And it was Josh Sanders, and we became riding buddies. Like, we became besties. Josh Sanders, a kid named Clint Tompkins, that was a wake skater, and Jason Lee, the photographer, that shot the ESPN body issue. And I think he lived there. We were there for like 3-4 years, and we all became best friends. So that would mean Daniel Watkins. That's where I met Brad Smealy. I met the Mackey brothers. Tony Oconee, I remember babysitting him when he came over. His dad got me and my high school friend to babysit him so he could go out and party. And, those were the good old days. And even when I moved out of there and I bought a house on Holden, I took my renters with me. The renters over at Kobe.
You just brought them over.
I said, because there's 2 houses on the property. So I was like, come, But Kobe ended up selling that house anyway. Who are some of the other? Austin Hare. I used to ride with him a lot. So I love JD Webb. Anyone who Ferraro pulled and worked with. So even Darren Shapiro, like that's where I learned to spin. And I go ride when the boat wasn't working. I go out to his house and ride a lot. Adam Fields, Wes Briscoe. There's so many people. I remember in my earliest days, Jerry Nunn, going out to ride with him. He was one of my favorite riders, Jerry Nunn.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so a lot of people.
Mike Weddington. This is I mean.
Okay, but I didn't hear a lot of girls' names. So would you say you primarily
Never.
rode with dudes?
I never rode with any girls. I can't really think of any girls that I rode with in the early days. Oh, well, at Mike's place, we call it Mike's place at OWC.
Mike's Place 99.
Yeah, Mike's Place 99 with the boathouse over there. He had his school that he ran through there. So Emily Copeland would come down from West Palm Beach every so often. Megan Major, she lived in Claremont. She would come down, but they were a little bit older.
Okay.
And Megan liked to have fun, and she was in the boys.
Like to party.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't know. Don't say things you don't know. And Emily was in Colorado or West Palm Beach, and Lauren Lowe, a girl from Texas, would come and stay with me and my family, and come ride with Mike for a few days. But really,
But there weren't any ladies like living in your area that you were riding with. It was kind of people that would come in and.
Because Kobe didn't get Tara to start wakeboarding yet, so.
She's still water skiing at this point.
She was still water skiing.
She didn't switch over to the good side yet. Okay, so when you were growing up, so you're 17, sounds like. When did you buy your first house? Was that at 17 or 18?
At 16.
It was 16.
16. I might have been 15. My mom was a real estate agent when I bought my first house, so I was really fortunate. And my parents took care of my mom took care of my money, so I wouldn't blow it as a child. So investing in a home, her being a real estate agent, seemed like the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
So she bought, with my money, we invested it in a house on Lake Ginny Jules, and it's right across from what's that restaurant everyone goes to? Anyway. But it's a small lake. It was a slum lake. And I rented it to Chad Sharp. That was someone else I used to ride with back in the day. Chad and Danny. Chad Sharp, Brett Eisenhower, and Jeff Here. If you knew Jeff Here, he was Canadian. So you had a Canadian, a Canadian, and an Aussie. And actually, I think Wakeboarding got banned from that lake. So I had to end up selling that house because of those guys. They partied so much. They had they had rails in the backyard built. They had a motorcycle track in my backyard.
They were having a good old time.
They would drive the boat up to the shore, run across the street to the racetrack with their gas cans across Orange Avenue. And I just remember, so apparently the neighbors weren't happy about it. And I had to end up selling that house.
A little bit rowdy. So how much money are we talking when you're 16, 17 years old? I mean, obviously it wasn't going in your hands.
Dallas Friday book, because there was this Dallas Friday book written for kids, and it talks about all of this stuff. And I wish I would have brought it because it would help me remember. But I want to say over 100. Well, with contests and sponsors, I was making well over 100,000 a year.
When you're still in the high school ages.
Yes, I can't tell you exactly because I never did it. I had a credit card. But I didn't know how much money I was spending, but I didn't know, it wasn't like someone said, stop spending money, you need money.
Yeah.
And I want to say probably close to like I don't know. I don't know exactly, but back in the day, I'm guessing 3,000, close to $10,000 in sponsors a month, and then contests on top. And some years, I want to say I was close to getting $100,000 in contests because you had X Games.
Well, there were
Gravity Games was like 19,000. X Games was 15,000. Vans Triple Crown, each one was 7,000. Then you have Masters, and you have Nationals, and you got Worlds. Then you have on top of that, Rebel's going to give you half of whatever you got for first place, or first place.
You're getting matches and all that.
3, 2, 1. Some sponsors would do like 3,000 first, 2,000 second, 1,000. So I mean, then you're adding on more to your prize money. So it's hard. I can't say exactly, so I don't want to quote it, but it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would come up to a lot of money.
And your parents they're playing a big role in helping you with that. Obviously,
my mom. I don't know how much even the house was that I bought. I'm guessing it was probably 300 to close to 300,000. Yeah, it was just a basic older home, but it was on the water. But she put my money in an account, save it, and pay my house bills for me with my money. Just like do everything like that.
For sure.
So.
Would you say at this point? I mean, obviously, you're probably talking to some of the guys. Would you say you're making more than almost every other guy?
It definitely was. I mean, I was. And that was the sad thing because when I started getting older and I started like material things, would catch. I started wanting. So I'd be on a plane and I'd be the type of person that I'd buy a snow cone and a fog machine out of the catalogs that you look at, and it'd show up at the door. I still never ordered anything off Amazon to this day, but that's what
it was from the Sky Club magazine.
It was crap. It was crap. Yeah, and I used the phone, which.
Okay, so you got a little lifestyle creep when you're on the planes.
Okay, Dallas, you need to stop going shopping. You need to stop spending money. She's like, you put over $4,000 at Bloomingdale's on your card this month. I don't understand. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I hope I win the next event. Okay.
And you probably did, so that's not a big deal. So money was coming in hand over
and then
fist.
you get Sea-Doos. Like the Sea-Doo used to sponsor. It was either the Vans Triple Crown, so you got a new Sea-Doo. Whoever won the overall, I think I won 4 Sea-Doos, but I never took the Sea-Doo. I just exchanged it for cash.
Do they do that at the contest, or do they do that? You got to do that.
Well, I mean, after the worst, but they had the Sea-Doo there, and I think the guys won the Ford truck.
Yeah.
Because it was a Ford truck Ranger. I actually took
Murray said he won a truck.
I took the rear view mirror off that truck because it was like an up to a flat, so it was kind of like a launch.
I'll put a video into the truck.
Yeah, and I remember my board and my fin, and it hit the side view mirror and it took it off.
I think Murray's dad still has that truck to this day. He has one of them, one of the Ford ones.
That's
when
really
I had him on,
cool.
he was talking about it.
I wonder if it still doesn't have that mirror.
I hope he got it replaced. I mean, I don't know. Okay, so this is kind of more of a serious question. We were talking about you and riding with guys and girls, and mostly guys at this point. Were there any other women riders or ladies at the time who became, almost, I don't want to use the word resentful, but, some animosity towards you at this point because you are doing so well? You're on the top of all the podiums.
What age are you talking about?
2001 to 2006.
I can't remember. I don't think I cared if there was, but I don't really remember having close riding friends. Besides Emily, like me, we'd say good luck, and me and Emily rode together at Mike's place, but we were also competitors. So we have that competitive spirit, but I would never say anything bad about her. She would congratulate you. Like, we were really good friends.
So I was just wondering if there was an attitude at these early days because you get
no, maybe by some of the other riders, but I didn't even notice it.
It wasn't something that was not even your radar.
Not even on my radar because I was just enjoying life so much.
Yeah.
I was just doing what Dallas does, riding, winning, and living, having fun. I don't know.
You were winning a lot, that is for sure. All right, so I do want to talk about a little bit more about Mike Ferraro because he's been sounds like a pretty crucial key part of, in your career in terms of he started teaching you the fundamentals and then as you progressed. What are some of the hardest pieces of advice that Mike's ever given you?
That's a really hard question. There's so many different things I could say about Mike.
Or it could be best piece of advice.
I could say, as far as what I find most valuable in Mike, well, not only was he good at getting me the best out of me, but Mike was really good in a way that he always was watching out for me. He was always watching out for me in a way of, it's your responsibility of how you lead women's sports, our sport. And really made me think about, he'd even go to the fact of Dallas at that photo shoot at Malibu. What would you grade how you did as far as showing up for the team and being there and being involved and just doing your job? what would you grade yourself? Now, what would you have graded Amber? And I remember that specifically because I said I probably got a B, you know, because I wasn't, they're like, you look alive in the boat. It's early morning shoots, you know, I'm dragged, I'm complaining a little bit. He said, what did Amber get? A+. So he'd always put these things in my mind of things that help me grow as an individual, to become someone that people want to work with, you know, and to be better and want to be better.
Yeah.
And, you know, as far as my rail riding was terrible. I was the worst rail rider on tour. I didn't make it into a finals because of rails at a contest. And I've never not made it into a finals at this point up to that. And he's like, you got to work on rails. He goes, you need to become the best rail rider. You need to stop doing both. And literally that year is when I learned how to switch transfer, and I was the best rail rider on tour. Like, I was doing stuff other girls weren't doing because I put the time and the effort into doing exactly what he told me to do.
Yeah.
You know, he was always right. He always just pushed me in the right direction of working on the right things, but doing it in the right way. You know, he got me on with Ronix after O'Brien didn't fall through. He said, Dallas, you know, this is where you need to show up at these shoots.
Yeah.
Show up early. Do things when you're not asked to do them. You know, that goes a long way. Don't be complaining about a board graphic. You know, this isn't the time or place. That's too late in the thing.
Yeah.
You know?
So it was more so, you know, long duration of good advice and leading you in.
Yeah, but he'd also made it fun. So I learned a Rayleigh because he told me, hey, guess who? Did you hear who learned a Rayleigh today? Emily went out. She did one off the kicker over at OWC on the cable, and she came over on the boat, and she landed one first try. I was like, shut up. Because we both want to learn Rayleighs. Yeah. I'm like, no way. He's like, yeah, I learned a Rayleigh that day after that. Emily never even tried Rayleigh. She didn't even come out and ride that day.
Oh,
that was
so he's lying to you. Okay.
That was Mike. And I still do the same thing when I have students. I still do those same, you know, these same little things because they've worked.
Well, you got to know what makes him tick. And he knew that would make you tick and go, okay.
Yeah, fired me up.
Yeah.
Fired me up. You know, and I'd say to my students when someone come and ride with me, imagine so-and-so just landed their pass. Or they just landed this and you didn't know they could do it. Yeah. Let's see the run that you would do now. You know, your last off the dock, pressure's on. What are you going to do?
A little extra bit of motivation.
Yeah.
So you ever drive his car before he had a license?
I did. Oh, God, there's so many stories with Mike. I mean, I remember wearing Chris Law's wetsuit, dry suit, and peeing in it when I was riding, and I didn't even realize that, yeah, it was in my school clothes. It was terrible. But driving his car, I had this thing where I always wanted to drive his car because I couldn't drive a car. I always want to do things you can't do. I was, like, adamant about, come on, let me just drive it from the boat, Mike's place, to the office over at OWC. No. And I just ended up eventually taking his car. Because I'm like, there's no harm. I'm not going to go to jail. And I did it there, and I did it down at Lake Okeechobee. I don't know if you know that story. I don't even know how you know I drove his car.
I've got some sources that I pull to get a good interview.
But I'd have to do things sometimes to be able to drive his car. Okay, fine, I'll let you do it. But you got to do this. You got to run full speed down the dock with all your school clothes on and dive down on the bottom and pick this up and bring it out. Like, just weird stuff. And I would do these things. He's like, you got to pee in a cup and give it over to Fat Andy at the office at OWC.
That's the one I wanted to hear.
You know, I didn't actually do that. Did you know that story? No, you did not know that. There's no way. Did. Who told you that? Mike's too old. He wouldn't remember that.
I knew that story, but I didn't know whether or not you actually peed in the cup.
What about the one where I would go and step out in cow dung and to drive his car? What about that one?
Sounds familiar, but I don't know.
Did you hear about when I stole his van in Narcoossee and I made it smoke and I actually blew it up?
No, but that sounds like a good one that I want to hear. So you blew his van up?
Me and his daughter, because she went to Pine Cow, so we were around the same age, and that was like right at high school, 16 years. No, we didn't have licenses. We were 15. Yeah. That's right. So we weren't even in high school yet. It was the summer before that. And he lived out in Narcoossee with Travis Moy out there and Darren and those guys. And he had this red old van. I mean, that old red, like a red sketchy looking kind of like Predator. Like
creeper van, yeah.
Creeper van, yeah. And now there, back then, there was nothing in Narcoossee. There was like this breakfast place, and that was it. There was nothing out there. And me and his daughter took the van, and I was like full throttle, just like, and it ended up smoking in the parking lot. He was so mad. But yeah, there's great stories with Mike.
Mike Ferraro, okay. I'd love to have Mike on one day. He'd be a great I feel like
he'd
wealth of
always,
stories.
Whenever
and
there were
and
people in the boat, like it was entertainment because he'd make me do things or say things to like just stir up everything.
just stir the pot, big stir in the pot guy. Okay. So another serious question, talking about women's riding. And we were talking about how you were making, quite a bit of money compared to a lot of other people in wakeboarding or even water sports in general at this time. You had a huge name in wakeboarding, still do, but oftentimes your name was bigger than the guys' names. So when you're talking about X Games promotion and stuff, your Dallas Friday is a huge name when it comes to people tuning in and the advertising they're doing for it. Yeah. Do you feel as though you were properly, I'm just going to use the word, paid for your value? Do you think that you were properly...
I was born to be a wakeboarder. I think God's always had this life plan for me. I think I've worked hard and just felt truly blessed. And I felt God put these people in my life that I still work with to today, and so thankful that have impacted me on such a level, not just in my writing, but in life in general, that he put the right people in front of me, and it was just the right timing. Timing is everything. It was right when wakeboarding was just getting big. I think my name, Dallas Friday, actually being my real name, might have had something to do with it. And I just loved wakeboarding, and I just knew that I was destined, and I knew I had big things in my future. I didn't know what, but I wasn't going to let anything stop me, and I wanted to find out what that was. Yeah. And I think people saw that in me. Actually, probably the biggest compliment I ever got from someone was at the Masters, and someone said, "You're Dallas Friday." He goes, "When you came around the corner, there was something about you that looked different than everyone else on the water." And this was a long time ago. He's like, "The way you just had your arm through the handle and you just stood there." He's like, "It just was like this statement before you even started." And I thought that was really cool, because that's like a moment I always realize, like I can remember like very vividly, is before you come in for your first pass, when you take off the dock and whatever your ritual would be until that boat turned and what you did. I looked at the wake kind of. I didn't even cut outside of it. I put my arm through the handle and I just kind of chill until it's like game time. I'm like, let's go.
I mean, that's style. That's the epitome of style right there, right? You can't force style. You don't create it. It just is what you're...
I didn't think about it like that. I guess it is a style, but...
So is going to the flats, which we can talk about in a little bit, which I'm very much so a fan of. So again, on a kind of serious note, what are some of the biggest challenges, or one of the biggest challenge? This question's from Megan Ethel, actually, so I reached out to her. She's wondering what the biggest challenge you faced as a pioneer of women's wakeboarding back in the day, or it could be till now at any point in your career. If you faced any challenges that were
I wouldn't
noteworthy.
say I really didn't face any challenges, but like in my whole first 10 years, I mean, from the ESPYs, I was just so lucky and so fortunate. Like I can't complain about anything. Yeah. I'd say if anything, it would be more, in the last 10 years. Yeah. So the biggest challenge I faced was sponsor, like people, just like what I spoke about earlier about it. To me, all my sponsors in the beginning they were my family. They were my family. They were my friends. They were my supporters. They would be people I call if I needed something, or they would reach out. Like if I was going through something, they would want to pray for me. And when I had my child, when I had Georgia, my daughter, people like Red Bull, like that was a real challenge for me, because they wanted to sign me as a legend, like Park does a legend program. I said, I'm not done. I don't want to be a legend. I'm an athlete. I'm going to keep winning. I'm going to ride again in tournaments. Yeah. They said, well, we just don't find value in that. And, that one of the coolest parts of my career, I can remember 3 specific ones, but this was a huge one, if not the biggest, was, the moment you don't get they don't give you any heads up the year before. I know I'm pregnant, whatever. It is but also I'm telling you I'm going to ride again. And, we'll keep you on the legend program and whatnot. And despite what they wanted to do, I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep my sticker on my board, and I'm going to ride in Worlds, which was 3 months after I had my daughter. I was riding a little bit. Mike's like, why not? I didn't have any money at this time because I wasn't getting paid by them anymore. I stayed in a closet at my friend Dave's, that's a photographer in Canada, Like in their closet, we blew like a little air mattress for me because I couldn't afford it. I could barely afford the flight over there. And I just knew it was where I was supposed to be. My mom's like, you shouldn't go. You can't afford to go. And I just went anyway. And I ended up winning Worlds. And yeah, my body was sore, but it was like in that moment after I won, it was like I just want to lift my hands and just say, thank you, God, because it was a clarifying moment. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I know I'm not done. And I love wakeboarding. And just because I have a child doesn't mean that it takes my career away and that I can't ride anymore. And I love the fact that what am I trying to say? I love that event and that moment validated that, you know,
you were right.
That the normal, what the normal is, you know, like what's possible, what's not possible, what's acceptable and not acceptable, you know, because it was just every time I think something, people are like, you can't do that or that's not possible, you know, it's what I know inside that I need to be doing. And it was just a really cool feeling and to walk away from that event. And despite did Red Bull want me back? I wrote him an email and Britta was all excited. Me and her were good friends. She was one of the people at Red Bull and they didn't. And you know what? I was like, that's perfectly fine. I don't want to be with a company, you know. They don't find value in me, then they don't find value. Yeah. I'm fine, you know. And it went on from that to not having then Malibu, you know, at one point too. And so to go into a Masters, to go into a season and not have a boat sponsor and lose Red Bull all after having a child, it's kind of a really, I wouldn't say disappointing. It was very...
Well, it's uncharted waters, right? It's uncharted territory.
Yeah. It wasn't embarrassing. It wasn't like that. It was just kind of like I was working hard and I was still doing what I was doing, but no one cared, it seemed like, you know, at that matter. Like, maybe I shouldn't go to these events. Maybe I shouldn't just, you know, maybe I should stop riding. But I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I had my Jesus fish sticker on my board. And I remember looking, that's all I need. God's got my back. He just validated that at the Worlds. I'm where I'm supposed to be. And, you know, and that's why I said God's timing, because that's when Paul Singer from Centurion, that used to be with Malibu, my first sponsor, you know, called me up. And that's where, you know, God, again, validating you're where you're supposed to be. Because I picked up, Centurion wanted to sponsor me, and they wanted to be a part of my family, and they wanted to know about my kids and what my plans were. And it's just an amazing, you know, when I think back of all of it, just how it's all happened. And I've just been really fortunate and blessed.
So I think that you touched on a very interesting point that I want to talk about, which was, so how long were you on Red Bull for? How many years was it?
Well, I remember Shaun White trying to kiss me at New Year's and with Kathy Williams. God, I did not want to kiss her. I pushed him away. And I think that's another reason why they dropped me, by the way. Because I wouldn't make it. He would try to kiss me at midnight, at New Year's, at Las Vegas, when someone was jumping with a motorcycle over the fountain. Sure. But yeah, I think that's, but okay, so Red Bull, that would have been, I was about 16, 17 when I started with Red Bull. Yeah. That sounds about right. Mm-hmm. And then it went on till right before my daughter. So from 2000, let's think about that. 2008, I'm guessing, no, 2006 to 2016.
Okay.
So maybe less than 10 years. No, maybe it was 10 years.
Around a decade. Okay.
Yeah.
How many cases of Red Bull do they send you a month?
So many. And the thing is, I didn't even like Red Bull. I mean, I really didn't. I did at first when I was a kid just because I thought it jacked me up. But I really didn't even, I'm not an energy drink person, personally.
Well, obviously you didn't like this Fresca carbonated water.
Tea. I'm from Florida, from the South.
real sugared up sweet tea. So, I mean, would you say that was one of your highest paying sponsors at the time, Red Bull, throughout those 10 years or close?
At the beginning. Because the programs that they had for us athletes were set up for incentive very friendly, and there wasn't really a big cap on that.
And you were
so I
winning
could
a lot.
max out, yes. Yeah. But yeah, my biggest sponsor was winning contests, because that's what I'd make the most money with each year is in winnings. But I'd say Malibu, O'Brien paid me quite a bit. Fox, I mean,
okay.
yeah, it's hard to say who paid me the most. It depends on what there's in a program.
Sure. There's a lot going on then, though. Okay, so let's talk about Kim Possible. So you were featured in the cartoon Kim Possible. I'm super curious how this opportunity starts and even begins.
There's so many different options. I was in a Cheeto commercial with Phil Sylvan. Did you
I did not know about the Cheeto one.
And Phil and his brother, Bob.
Yeah,
that was funny. It's like, I think my line in that was, any bites, twisted Cheetos. And it was just, okay. Anyway, Kim Possible, I got approached. It was Disney in California. No. Yes. Disney in California. I did something else for Disney in California. Yes, it was in California.
Okay.
I did go to California.
That makes sense.
And Mike Metzger and Bucky Lasek, and there were some other characters on there, if you've ever seen the X Games episode that they do.
Yeah.
And they got us all together, and then we went in a studio, and they kind of did like the Activision thing, an animated thing of you, and then you read through lines. I didn't have many lines, but
it's a pretty cool experience, though, I have to imagine.
You should be careful before someone gets hurt, or something like that. That was one of my lines I remember. But,
notoriously cautious, Dallas Friday. Just making sure no one gets hurt. were you paid to be in Kim Possible? Is that?
Yes, I still get checks to this day. For
no,
that.
you do not.
I mean, they're by the penny. They really are. I mean, I had them for a long time where they were kind of decent, and then you got paid for, I think, the original like flat fee or something. But then, I'll still get it will be literally 5 cents checks here and there randomly still this day.
Physically mailed checks to your house.
Yes.
For 5 cents.
Yes, I can prove that to you.
Yeah, I believe you.
And some of them I didn't even put in the bank. I mean, well, not 5 cents. They were like $1.50. Sorry, they were like, I remember $2 and $3. Still, so
it's enough to get a couple stamps. Okay, let's talk about the ESPY. So you're the only wakeboarder to win an ESPY.
I think I was the only wakeboarder to ever be nominated.
You probably were.
Or anyone in the water sports industry to be nominated for an ESPY.
You probably
were. Which is pretty insane.
Yeah, so run us through the ESPY. How that starts.
They approached me, and I've done quite a bit of stuff for ESPN at this point, with X Games, doing the live interviews and getting, Sal, Sal.
Selena,
and Jamie that interviews people, and then she worked for NASCAR, and she did all kinds. So I created quite a bit of relationships with people. So, and I think wakeboarding was just taking off and being a part of the X Games, and I was just dominating. And I think that it was someone probably mentioned I don't know how it exactly happened. Someone probably mentioned my name in a brief meeting, and with women's action sports, because that's what I won, best female action sport. And these are snowboarders, surfers, and skateboarders. The best of the best, the big names. And I was put in that category. And I never would have thought in a million years. One thing to get nominated, I remember it being huge on Wake World. I remember my mom reading the threads and all that kind of stuff, and people voting and trying to get the name out there. And you would never think wakeboarding, a sport like wakeboarding, is so small. It's basically Orlando, friends and family. And that I would get enough votes and to go there. And they didn't tell me beforehand. And they have the video thing. They have the video screen, and they show, because the action sports section they did where a video screen would come up, and then they showed the winners and the name, and then it showed Dallas Friday, and then they showed clips and stuff. And when it came up, it was kind of just a surreal moment. It was wow. I can't believe the industry, that we got that many votes, and I won that, because it was kind of unbelievable to just be nominated, but to go and win an ESPY. And I was actually, I don't know if you know this, I was actually nominated for another ESPY. And I actually went to the ESPYs 2 years later, 3 years later. I didn't win. I forget who won. I was sitting next to Bethany Hamilton. Crazy, right?
So when you're sitting there that first time, so they don't prep you okay,
no,
you were the one that
won.
But
I showed up, and I was staying on Sunset Boulevard, and there was a check-in, and there was a very high-end, and it was security. And you go to the check-in, and there's meet and greet. And I got this goodie bag. And I got stuff of free Chipotle for a year, whitening teeth, $4,000 certificate, expensive wine, some of the best jewelry, sunglass companies. It was a duffel bag. I forget the brand, but just the bag alone was $4,000 bag of duffel bags and gift cards of all this stuff. It's really cool stuff. and a briefcase set, like a men's suit, $1,000 certificate for a men's suit, tailor made, like all this kind of like just weird out there kind of stuff. Like companies wanting to get their product into the top best athletes' hands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they make these goodie bags. That was really cool because I didn't know that part of it. And then there was like a white dress party. Does that sound right? Is that what they call it? White dress party?
Black tie, white dress?
They call it a white dress party. I don't know. But yeah, they had that too at the hotel where you got to meet and greet, you know, with the other athletes and stuff. And the red carpet, I remember the red carpet, I was one of the first athletes to arrive. I want to say like probably within the first 30. So, and I was interviewed, and I'm sure you can find it online. I have short blonde hair and a little yellow dress, and they're like, oh, you know, what for people that don't know what wakeboarding is, you know, what is wakeboarding? Or like, could you wakeboard down the red carpet? Like, ask, you know, the usual. But it was, I think I did a great job. I was just myself. I've always been myself in the interviews. You know, you get what you see. You can't tell me what to say. I'm going to say it how I want to say it. So, but it was a lot of fun. And, my mom came with me, and I didn't think it was one of those, again, surreal moments that's kind of like, seems like a dream because it was so long ago and so much fun.
So, I mean, this is a good transition into a question, another one from Megan. I was talking to her, and she's wondering what's been the most standout moment you've seen in women's wakeboarding. And to me, an ESPY might not be a standout moment in the actual physical riding of women's wakeboarding, but a moment in women's wakeboarding, that's a huge one. I'm wondering if there's other ones that come to mind that you think is like, this is the number one.
I mean, there's so many different, cool moments in women's wakeboarding. I think you have it from landing a double flip to first 720 to the first 720 in a contest to, you know, first S-bend ever landed. Like, you know, so many different things. I don't think they get enough recognition, but sorry, what was your question?
Just a standout moment in women's wakeboarding. It doesn't have to be you. It can be you. It can be anybody else that you're thinking about in the last.
Well, recently it was the women's wake league, like starting their own, having that event. I think was really cool. Honestly,
that's a good one.
But I've always said this too, like, and I feel like this is, and unfortunately I've had a lot of personal things going on lately that I've been having to take care of, but it's always been my dream of mine because I love wakeboarding, and there's so many great, you know, women involved in our sport. There's so many great ladies out there. I don't know why they ever did a Wake Brothers. It should have been Wake Ladies. Like they'd probably still be playing to this day. But there should be another girl that is nominated for an ESPY. You got Mary Morgan. You got so many girls out there that are such good mentors and just such a good example for young ladies that are out there that work hard and they love what they do, and they set a good example, and they're living life to the fullest. And I feel like that is something you don't see enough of these days, and it should get recognition. And that's what sports are about, you know. That's why I do sports, and I'd love to see a nomination for an ESPY. And I'd like to think that that's possible. And I'd like to see prize money, women being back in the X Games, or Pantene sponsoring a pro tour, or there being a Wake Ladies, you know.
Yeah.
But I know that would be then drama, because that's all TV wants to see is drama, and I could create that. But I really would like to see that. Or, you know, like whether it be like having a big, whatever it may be. You know?
So, okay, I'm curious. You talked about Women's Wake League and then, you know, competitive riding. So right now, for the most part, women's and men's competitive wakeboarding behind the boat are pretty separate, right? Because you had an event at the Women's Wake League.
It's all the same.
You have the Pro Wakeboard
It's all
Tour.
the same. I say it's all the same because it's all the same organization. It's all the same. Same prize money is about the same. Format's the same. It's all the same.
What do you mean?
They're all basically the same thing. You show up, there's a semifinals, there's a finals, it's four tricks, it's the same judges. You're winning basically the same amount of money. There's nothing besides the Red Bull Wake, the double up thing that just happened.
Yeah.
But still, even that, kind of the same thing. There's no, like back in the day, Vans Triple Crown, X Games, it was different. There was different format, there was production company, there was pre-press, it was in the newspapers, it was on commercials, it was on the news. It was totally different then. It'd be really cool Like, I would love to see someone do an event that is completely different. One of those ones where you're cuckoo, you must be from Mars, or that's not, but different is good. And different's good when you have, just like Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy starting their own stadium.
Yeah.
Those are from the best of the best. Those are people that know the sport and do it because they love it.
So,
And entertain people.
What would you like to see then in competitive wakeboarding now? Because you're kind of getting into it.
Jason from the Women's Wake League, put on this event. And I told him, I gave him my opinions. I like how he changed up the format. Could he change it a little bit more? Yes. He's got to reach out to outside sponsors, but you got to do it outside the box. You got to think outside the box. How am I going to do this? How am I going to get people to want to give me money? And I don't think people are, I don't know if it's the risk taking or just doing something different. I'm not sure. But I think that's what it's going to take to have what wakeboarding used to have as far as the Kim Possibles and all those, outside industry things, or being in 17, being in Cosmo.
Make wakeboarding bigger than wakeboarding.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's what it would take. But right now in the world today, I feel like sports in general have been kind of lost a little bit, just on what they're about. And
I think you're spot on with, you got to do something kind of drastic. I don't know if I want to use the word, but it's got to be something wildly different, something not status quo of like four tricks down, four tricks back. It's got to be something different. Totally
different. You could even have the father and son that they do at the Ritz-Carlton. They have 3 lakes in that course. You could have one course being flips, another one being spins, another one being style. But then get someone like Rolex to come in and sponsor it. Or say it's a big air, big trick, whatever. And make up an event that's something totally different, but bring in a sponsor that has money, bring in people from outside industry.
Get some attention on it.
Having a whole ladies event, have a wet t-shirt contest. I don't know. Something, but I mean.
Break some rules. Do some unique stuff.
But also you got to be different. I want to see different tricks. You know what I wanted to do is after a contest, I want to put my own money and do I hate video contests, by the way. They're the most stressful thing I've ever had to do. But how cool would it be to have a video contest that is for one day? One day, if someone can go out there and do one pass, doesn't matter how many tricks you can do. There's no cap on it. But they all have to be grabbed, or they can't be from your world's run. I want to see that. Everyone, you got and then you see cool different stuff. And it's like, I mean, for me as a wakeboarder and doing so many contests and video contests, I mean, do something different. Imagine if there was a contest and it was like, but you can't do any trick from your run from Worlds that you competed with. Then you're seeing cool new stuff. Then you don't know what so-and-so is going to do.
This.
Chick-fil-A sponsors $500 for, a spin only 5 trick line, whatever it may be. But it can only be spins and it's got to be grabbed. Let's see it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm always thinking and creating different things. And, wakeboarding, I love competing. I never thought I would not be competing in wakeboarding. But I'm in a different time of my life and I don't train like I used to train. And I don't go in knowing I'm going to win undeniably. But make it exciting. Make it fun.
Yeah, we need stalefish, not stale.
I didn't like where there's a tag football or something beforehand or a prehand, something else competitive within the athletes. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I got a question. You were talking about Chick-fil-A, but there's a movie called The Chick Flick. And it was the first all-female kind of feature-length wakeboarding film. I think it was 2007, if I got that right.
That sounds about right.
And you were involved in that project, so I'm curious how that opportunity came about to be involved in a feature-length film that's all ladies.
No, that was really cool. When they approached, who did that film? I'm trying to remember. Who was that? Do you have that on your little?
I don't have it on here now. I was just watching the trailer for it.
God, and he was a good friend of mine, so I feel bad. But he approached me about it, and they wanted to get all the top women, in the sport at the time currently, and make an all women's video. And it was a really cool video, and I loved how it wasn't just tricks. It was like you saw who we are as individuals within that. Yes. And it was fun and it had good music. And I used to be a huge not DVD, but VHS, like wakeboard videos. I grew up on that. I mean, Six Pack, Mayday, Monkey on a String, Switch 22, Shafted. I mean, these are videos I could tell you what song, what rider, you know, like.
Student of the game, Dallas Friday.
No, you
I
have
didn't
no
know.
idea. No, me and my brothers, and, you know, we wouldn't even loan them out to people because when we did, we wouldn't get them back. But I lived off that. Like, Six Pack was one of my favorite videos. But, I mean, that's what I loved about wakeboarding, too, is, like, you watch these videos, you know, or even Murray and, like, doing the little bit of acting. Do you remember Zach Morris from Saved by This Bell?
Do I remember?
Dude,
yeah.
What video was that he had him come on?
It's 12 Honkies.
12 Honkies. Oh, yeah,
they're
but that wasn't even that old.
in the
12
sports
Honkies
car.
I consider somewhat.
What was that,
not
2001? 2000? 2002?
Yeah,
I don't know, it's in there.
but Six Pack was like probably.
Yeah, 90s.
Yeah,
So.
90s. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I didn't think to ask this question, but you just listed off a ton of movies. What were some of your favorites that you watched on repeat?
Well, Six Pack was probably one of my favorite. Shaft was one of my favorite, and Shafted. I loved My House because that's where I fell in love with J.D. Webb. Monkey on a String was good. I mean, there's so many, but it was really the riders in those sections in those videos that I really loved.
Yeah.
I love Parks' double up section to Bush. What was that? Was that Shaft or Shafted? Shafted.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. But you know, and then wakeboard videos like Pre-Pop and All or Nothing. You know, those were when I was like having fun, maybe partying a little bit, but those were great videos. You don't see any of that anymore, and
Not too often. Definitely not too often.
not in a whole segment of, you know, riders sets and, you know.
Definitely.
But
Let's talk about the body issue. So, who do you think has wakeboarded naked more times, me or you?
probably you,
What makes you say that?
because you're a boy, and that's probably something.
I've wakeboarded naked 3 times.
Yeah, you have 2 days. 2 days of wakeboarding naked. I never fell in the whole 2 days. Why would I
You didn't
ever
fall?
wakeboard? I did not fall the entire shoot.
Talk about athlete. I felt all 3 times that I
I
wakeboarded naked.
prepared for that photo shoot.
Okay, so in serious though, how did you actually prepare for that, and how did the opportunity come about?
Okay, I'll try to make the long story short. But I was riding for Red Bull at the time, and I've always visualized things, and they would happen. You know, whether that be winning worlds, whether that be when I broke my femur and coming back from that, like winning world champion. And I just always seen things, and then they've actually come to life. And I remember looking at the ESPN body issue on a plane, and when it came out before, and I was like, I'm going to be in this one day. I want to be in this, because if you look through it, you have athletes, and every athlete has a body, and it tells a story. It tells God gave him this body, and that's what they do with that. And that's why I thought it was so cool when I was given the opportunity to be able to be a part of that, because it tells a story. And it's not about being naked and people think, oh, wow, I can't believe you did that. It's about exactly how ESPN does it. And if you look at the pictures, it's not like, oh, it's more so like the shot. It's showing you a scenery of that person's world. So, you know, that's why it wasn't even really a trick shot. It was more just seeing the wake. You know, if you saw the shot in the magazine, it's the wake. You see the rope. You see the handle. It's not about being naked.
Grab.
Yeah, and it shows you that person's world and why they have that body and how they do what they do.
Yeah.
And so when I was approached to do it, I was really excited and found it to be a lifetime opportunity. You know, once in a lifetime opportunity. And you know, as ESPN magazine, it's a huge shoot. It's a huge thing. So I knew I had to take it seriously. Where's the location going to be? And them not knowing anything really about wakeboarding not being something photographers of their standards know something about. You know, that's when I mentioned, you know, they had a photographer they wanted. I said, you really need someone in the wake industry for the timing. So, you know, they had Jason Lee, Matt. They had the few photographers they were looking at. They ended up using Jason Lee, which was my roommate, my brother, basically, at the time. So what we did, we would go out on the water behind the boat, and I'd wear a wetsuit, because this is in the middle of winter, like
February or something.
Yeah, but when we shot it, it was in February. But prior, I would wear a wetsuit, like at the end of summer, with a skimpy bikini on top with a bright color, and we go out and we shoot. And he'd be on the tube, and we do grabs, and then he'd do chase boat, and then he'd do side boat, and then we're sitting in the water. We figured out what tricks could I be doing because they don't blur it out. It's just you got to be doing a movement where at that moment it doesn't catch your private parts.
Yeah.
So we figured that out. We already knew the tricks and everything of what we were going to shoot, what would work, and what to get it done. Because, and I actually even trained getting in the water, not naked, but when it became cold in the winter, where I'm just sitting there freezing in the water. And my boyfriend at the time, his name was Ryan Jones. He was a trampoline gym coach, but yeah, he'd pull me around on the Sea-Doo, no wetsuit, and then make me sit in the water because I knew that's what I had to be dealing with.
You were doing cold plunges before cold plunges were a thing.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it would be windy conditions, and I mean at photo shoots, and any rider can relate to this. It doesn't matter how small the wake is. It doesn't matter how windy it is. When it's time to shoot, and you have to get it done,
you get that
and
shit done.
Especially me doing it for a magazine, I can't be a complainer. I can't, and there's no, we'll do it tomorrow. It's like, and I, again, with Ferraro saying A or B, what would you grade me? I got an A+, because I didn't fall the entire shoot. We got a bunch of shots. We finished before schedule, and we did it out at Blue Lake. A small crew, maybe 10 of us. Yeah. That was it. There were big truck drivers driving around the lake. I was like, this is a little awkward. But
oh man, okay. There's a little bit to unpack because I'm very curious on a couple of questions I have is, were you allowed to have any stickers on your board that were, sponsor stickers, or did you have any sponsor at the time?
Yes, I could, but the shot that they used didn't have sponsor stickers on it, the one for the actual magazine.
Sure. Yep.
And I'm sure that had something to do with it, because that's, if you look at, there's a certain type of art and photo that they do that they all kind of have the
composition
same theme.
of the photo has to, yeah.
And sticker wasn't a part of that. But they got a lot of shots, and they used them for other different things and media outlets. But the one that was in the magazine, yes. And you'll notice that with all athletes. If there was a brand ever in any of those shots, I'd be very surprised. It would.
Yeah. It's also free advertising, kind of, and they're probably taking some very seriously how they're.
Yeah, they're not. It's not about advertising. It was about
exactly.
sports and bodies and what we're made to do.
Yeah. I'm curious. Was there any, I don't want to use the word backlash. Was there any backlash or any, negative comments you'd received?
There was once, and I'm one to, because I did it and it was something I wanted to do, and I kind of dreamed and visualized that this was going to happen, and then got to do it. And I remember my mom forwarded me like a screenshot of a thread, and it was just, I'm really disappointed at Dallas Friday for setting this example for my daughter and young women out there. I love her as a rider, and I still respect her, but I can't be a part. I can't
get behind it or
something on those terms, and it really hurt. And you know what? But I totally get it, especially being a mom now. I understand that. But would it have changed? Do I regret it? No way, not in a second. But I do agree with what you allow your child to be around is going to impact your child and be an influence.
Yeah.
I don't know if she would still have that comment because of who I am. Like I don't know, but it did kind of make me feel, I was naked, and I was, and young girls, and I get that. But also at the same time, I was like, that's not why I was doing it.
Is that a classic case of everyone overthinking something? And turning it into something that it's not?
Yes. And more people look at it like it's just funny because it's kind of like a joke. But that's not why ESPN does that. That's not why it's a summer issue every year that they do.
Yeah.
And the best top athletes in the world in every sport are on this. There's a reason why that they agree to it, because it's not about being naked. It's about something else.
Yeah, 100%. So. Okay, that was a great, segment on that. I was always curious on that, and sounds like I still have wakeboarded naked more times than you, so got that going.
I did. This is the funny part. When the shoot started, though, there was a chase boat over here, and I was like, so putting on my boots was kind of awkward, and I'm like, just turn. I'm like, don't act like y'all aren't impressed, to kind of just break the ice of the shoot, because I'm just a joke. But when I was out there, though, I honestly didn't even think about that I was naked at all. I got whipped into the shore. Like, I never even got in the water submerged because I didn't fall.
So you stayed somewhat warm, at least. Not bad. All right, let's talk some sponsors. So we talked about Red Bull, some other ones. So you were talking about O'Brien. You were with them from very early on in your career for, you said, what, 15
I just
years?
noticed there's a camera right there. I've never noticed that one.
Yeah, we got
I
3.
just thought-
Yeah, we're legit. We got 3 cameras in here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So O'Brien, I guess, how did that opportunity start? And then you were talking about the end, but let's talk about the beginning and the early days of O'Brien.
The early days are so hard for me. O'Brien.
Brian Wakeboards. Was that?
I remember.
Was that
I'm
your
just
first
trying to
board
remember.
sponsor?
It was my first board sponsor.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. Okay, so I remember I rode a Liquid Force board. No, never rode a Liquid Force board. I rode a Voyager. It was a Hyperlite, right?
Okay.
Hyperlite.
Yep.
Hyperlite Voyager.
I'll try and put a picture of that in if you can.
And I never rode Liquid Force. That's right. I rode the Hyperlite Voyager, and then I just want to say, someone contacted me from O'Brien. Contacted my parents. My parents would get contacted quite often from all kinds of like just different sponsors. Some no-name places, like no-name brands, and said they wanted me to try a board. It's typically how it would work, and seeing if I was interested. And working together, and they want to send me some stuff and see what I think. And I think that's where it started, and that's where I started a relationship and sponsorship with O'Brien.
Okay. And that progressed for, like you said, 12, 13, 14, 15 years, something
Promo,
like that.
signature board, 15 years, over 15 years, I'd say.
Okay.
Close to that.
And how does that relationship come to an end? Because you said it kind of happened.
Well,
quickly.
just like in sponsors and business, and it's more than just me, when Hyperlite, when Paul O'Brien sold Hyperlite and everything, and then they didn't get back Hyperlite. I forget exactly all what happened, and then Paul started Ronix. There were a lot of changes in ownership and whatnot, but there's always a big guy behind the scenes that's running everything, and I think it was one of those, we don't find value in you anymore, whether that be I wasn't riding good or whether that be because Brian didn't make cool wakeboards and they didn't have good board sales. So eventually, how long can we pay you to win? I don't know. I'm just being honest right now. I probably shouldn't have said that. But I mean, the graphics were terrible. I mean, it was like you didn't really get to build your own board and really have your own pro model because you didn't have any say in the graphics. You didn't have any say in the design. You're basically taking someone's old pro model with a different...
So when you were with them, there wasn't a whole lot of input in terms of like, hey, I think this, I want to go this direction with the graphic.
No, there was in the beginning. Yes, and then
then
that changed. And then that changed.
Slowly, they started asking less of you in terms of what you're looking for on the board, or
yeah, and I think they knew that they were, and I don't know. I went from team manager to team manager, and kind of it just never seemed. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
But once you got a women's shape and its design, and then the graph, then they basically use that same board and just change its smallest little thing. It's probably to make it cheaper though.
Well, definitely to make. I think so. Okay, so then you said that ended, and was that kind of a? I mean, were you bummed?
Well, they probably wanted to start a new board and new board sales, and they had a new rider, and they needed budget from that, and so that's. I mean, I can't say 100%, but that's what I'm guessing.
Okay.
I mean, and maybe that I was hurt. That I have no idea, but.
Okay, so that time comes to an end, and then you said you were talking to Ferraro. How was this transition
That was
into
cool
Ronix?
because I'm like, sweet. If I go to ride for Ronix, a company that actually cares about our sport and what they put out as far as graphics and designing boards, and it be the top of the line, that would be every rider's dream come true. Not that I didn't like my O'Brien board. I love that board. I mean, that was a great shape. But to have more say in that, and it'd be the high end, high level, like in the know of everything. You know what I mean? I met Paul, and they've already signed all their contracts. They already had their budgets done, basically. And Surf Expo was right around the corner. And he's like, what do you think about this board? Do you think you could ride it? And he's like, I'm going to set up a shoot. And me and, what's his name?
Rider, photographer.
Photographer. Yeah. I can't believe I forget his name, and I feel terrible.
Rodrigo, Garrett.
No, he lived in Parks' neighborhood.
Oh.
He was high end. Kind of high strung, too. But we shot out at the Ronix Lake, and at that photo shoot, I set it up. I did the big air, I did double ups, and I rode. And if you ride out there behind the boat at the Ronix Lake, it's terrible. Rollers are terrible. It's terrible condition. It's the wakes, and you're turning constantly. But I showed up and I nailed it at that shoot, and they got amazing shots. If you look at the Ronix catalog, I think I'm on the back of it, and the big air, and we just got some killer shots. And Paul was so stoked on having that stuff, and it was towards like their women's board and whatnot. But I think that was like a good first note.
Starting off on a strong foot or whatever.
Foot.
Yeah.
And knowing, and then at wakeboarding at that time, companies weren't really, they didn't need to pay people really. It's like, we'll give you free boards. Like, who's going to go out and pay me as much as O'Brien did? Not really, that's the truth of the matter, and, he made me an offer. It was a good offer. And I had nothing else, and I was just happy. I would have rode for them for free, just because I love their boards and their product, and I just love wakeboarding. Yeah. At the end of the day, I'm gonna wakeboard despite if I get paid or not.
So might as well get a free board.
Might as well
at least,
get a
right?
good free board. Yeah.
Okay, so after you sign with them, are you working on? Are you giving input towards boards after you sign and stuff?
Yes, and that's what I loved. I loved being part of the R&D, and really having actually people listen to me and design a women's boot and a women's specific board. That's when the limelight, and we came up with that board. My board sales were great. I got great royalties on that board. We did good social media videos, releasing that. But I was proud of that board. It took a lot of time. And this is another Mike Ferraro thing I learned in our industry. He goes, I said, but Mike, there's something I want you to change. He said, Dallas, you just got to like it. Everyone else needs to love it, which was a learning curve for me. That was one of those moments. Oh, I see. I get it.
Yeah.
The board sales. That's
sport
what's going to make
for me as much as it's for everybody else.
He's like, you just need to like the board. Everyone needs to love it. It needs to be user friendly. So that's where I learned a lot about product and just sales in general. And we made a great board, and honestly, it was a great board design. It had camber, Parks's camber air core 134 was my favorite board I've ever ridden. That's when I learned sevens. That's when all of a sudden just magic happened when I got on that board. And if I could ride it right now today, I would.
Okay, speaking of right now today, are you still on the team? Are you still on Ronix or what's that?
I'm not shooting. Boards. I'm not getting paid from Ronix. Okay. No. But I'm still, if I want a board, I can get product and anything like that. I was in the catalog shoot not too long ago. Whatever they need, I'm happy to go help out on dealer days. Yeah, whatever it is.
Okay.
So.
Okay, let's talk injuries because you've had a few, to say the least, I would say.
Really not that many.
Some gnarly ones.
They're pretty bad ones.
Singapore. Set the scene. What happens in Singapore? I'm just gonna let you run with it because it's
okay. What year was that?
I don't know what year it was.
I want to say that I wasn't 18 yet to travel by myself, or I might have just turned 18. But I remember I bought my brother a plane ticket, Robin, to come with me for his birthday because he wanted to ride the cable in Singapore. So I brought him with me to that event, and. Sorry.
No, this is good because this is a very big.
I remember being. Okay, I'm just gonna tell the truth because that's just me and I can't tell the story right. Okay, Perfect. So it was This is terrible. Okay, so flying over, I had my first menstrual cycle that I have not had in 5 years because I was on a certain birth control. So I didn't have one for 5 years. I got the first one on the flight over there.
Okay.
So that really messed with my home. Didn't really feel like myself, and I felt really fatigued and tired. I couldn't figure out what it was, And flying that far, and I took some sleeping medicine on the plane. I remember that. And I didn't get up the entire flight to even go pee, not once. I woke up with Laffy Taffy around me. So I didn't get up. So, I think a lot of things were involved when this freak accident injury happened, flying over my menstrual period, coming for the first time in 5 years, being on that flight, not getting up, probably my blood circulation. But I mean, I went out there and I just did what I normally do. I got off the plane and I was ready to go, got warmed up, felt confident, did my run, last trick, second pass, whirly bird. Actually, right, second pass, I hit a rail and I had these 1.25 rainbow rail fins on, and it came off. It came loose.
Okay.
So then, and I just kept going. I think it came off because if it was loose, I would have probably stopped. And I just kept doing my tricks. And on Whirlybird, I came in and I came up the wake and I didn't ride up the wake at all. I slipped out. So I threw the trick at the bottom of the wake. I got no pop. And it wasn't because I didn't know what I was doing. It's just because of that fin. And so I just got hung up and then just came down and landed on the second wake in a weird angle, weird impact, freak accident. And honestly, I didn't even know what a femur was. That's how I didn't even know what bone that was.
I mean, you're a kid, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't a kid,
Not a
but
kid,
I probably
but
should have known what a femur was. But
yeah, probably true.
But to look down and see your leg just like this at mid-thigh, basically, it ended up being a 9-spiral fractured femur. It looked like a Christmas tree shredded all the way down. I mean, you could see me holding it and it just being bent backwards. And, when I've had injuries, I had my knee meniscus and then I kind of broke my back, but it wasn't bad ones. They weren't terrible. They were like a small surgery, quick recovery. But when you go through something like that, it's insane because, I mean, I was really calm. I was super calm. I was still intact to my boots and my board. You're in another country. There's people racing over to you. You don't really know what you're saying, but I just told myself, stay calm because if you freak out, it's going to make it worse.
Yeah.
And I was in pain, but then the pain went away. I didn't feel pain anymore. And I remember people wanting to swim out to me. I remember Rusty being there. I remember Andrew Atkinson being there. I remember just I think Danny Harf was there too, and Chad Sharp was there. And they got me on the back of the platform. They had to, rip my board off my boots and then somehow get me out. And it was bad. An ambulance came, and I remember, all that happening. But I do remember this. I remember as I'm getting in the ambulance, and me being Dallas, they want to cut off my board shorts, and I was like, "You guys they're like my favorite pair of board shorts, And I just remember making a funny comment about that, and I remember Kathy Williams coming to see me at the hospital, and Kathy Williams traveled with me quite a bit to overseas events, and this is kind of a funny thing because they were speaking English there, but she would have to translate what they're saying in English to my type of English to where I could understand it. So she was translating English and English to me, and just went in for surgery, and I just remember my brother being told to go get stuff at the hotel and pack it all up, and I just remember going in for surgery, and I don't think I remember speaking to my parents or anything. I think at that point I was
quick.
probably, because eventually they gave me something, I think in the ambulance or right when I got there for pain, and I just don't remember anything till I woke up. So to wake up and my dad be there, right next to my bed, just hovered over me, not knowing I had complications and I was in a coma, induced a coma for almost 2 weeks or something. Insane. I can't remember exactly. My dad said the first thing I said when I woke up was, "Do you care if I wakeboard again?" And he said, I want to say, he said, "Honey, I support anything that you want to do. If you want to do it, I'm there with you." And I knew I would wakeboard again one day. And I knew I'd be back there probably winning the event. And I didn't know what it was going to take, and it might sound crazy, but it wasn't going to stop me from wakeboarding. And I remember just learning how to try to get on crutches at the hospital there. I remember having blood clots and having to give myself shots, like when I was able to finally get the clearing to fly back over. It was a really gnarly injury. I guess I had what they called a fat embolism. It's like when the white blood cells, you break the biggest bone in your body, there's so many that it releases something, and it's known for your lungs collapsing during the surgery, which is what happened to me. I was going to ask
about that as well.
So it wasn't, I didn't swallow water. It was actually from these blood cells, from breaking that bone in such a traumatic way that's why my lungs collapsed. And then I went to, I don't know.
So when that immediately happened, did you know? Sounds like you calmed yourself down. Did you know how bad it was? Did you know this is really bad or no?
No, I knew it was. I was kind of in a stage of shock.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I didn't feel pain really too much. It was just all kind of just like, stay calm and whatnot. But I didn't think I would ever have those complications, and that it was that bad of an injury and medical
situation. Yeah. So what were some complications you had? Obviously the lungs collapsing, but
when I hear about it nowadays, I guess my parents, of course my parents were called right away.
Yeah.
And they were thinking, well, good thing her brother's with her. He can get her home. Thinking like it's like ACL, like it's going to be something,
Going to surgery, come out, we go home.
And I guess they got the call that my lungs, someone needed to get over there to make decisions, because it's possible I might not be coming home. That, it is possible for me to die. It's quite common with that kind of medical thing. So my dad flew over, and they kept me in induced coma in ICU, and then I came through and I could breathe on my own. And the first thing that happened is that they needed to take the chest tube out, because I remember that was an issue. I couldn't really hold my breath, and they're supposed to hold your breath when they pull it out. And that was kind of like that I wasn't drugged up so much then, because I needed to be awake. But it's all kind of a blur to me. I was so drugged up. I remember seeing like Rusty and dolphins and things on the ceiling that weren't really there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it was, when you look at the photos and you think about what happened, it's a gnarly accident. I mean, for that to happen on that trick at that time, and just, the magnitude of the break is just insane. But I did my therapy, I did my rehab, I kept my head high. And like I said, the first thing I knew is that I was going to wakeboard again. I just want to make sure my dad was okay with that.
Yeah.
And I can say that 1 year later, I went to that same event in Singapore and won it the following year.
Back on top.
Took the win.
So I'm super curious, because a lot of wakeboarders have, knee problems, ankle problems, maybe some shoulder problems. Nothing that's breaking your femur. Breaking your femur is one of the worst bones you can possibly break in your body.
Yeah. Every sport has injuries. And then there's the ones that have really serious injuries. Some need hip replacements. And those people don't ever recover fully back to where they were. And honestly, I was lucky to being in Singapore in such good care. And Paul Fong was taking care of me. But their medical system over there was amazing. And when you break the biggest bone in your body, they could either do, depending on my age, they could either put a metal rod, titanium rod in it, and then take it out, or just leave it in. And they're like, if I'm going to grow any, they would take it out, And I'm at the stage where I'm not growing anymore. So when you have a titanium rod and then bone grows around the titanium rod, I mean, if something breaks that again, it's going to kill me. The impact of something like that. So I'd say my legs got stronger than ever. Mobility-wise, it did affect a few things, and my hips and a little bit of my knee movements. And I still have the rod in my leg now that goes in from the hip down right above the knee. It's got two screws. But I've made it work, and I've come back, and I felt
made
strong.
It work is to put it lightly, I think.
But. And honestly, that's never been an issue since then.
Really?
Occasionally I felt something weird with the screws when it get cold, but I haven't felt that in years.
Good thing you live in Florida, not all the way up in the Michigan.
Compared to an ACL, we're doing ACL, MCL, meniscus, patella tendon, all of those, a complete reconstruction. It was walk in the park as far as recovery. It was always like this, always on an uphill. Knee, it was just a nightmare roller coaster.
Okay, so I'm curious on the mental aspect of this, because that is such a, traumatic event, such an intense injury. How do you come back and step on your wakeboard again and go, okay, I'm going to go do a whirly bird, and have that not be mentally blocked in your head of something that...
I didn't do one for a while.
Or just, riding in general. Getting back on the board, right? Like,
no, it was never whirlybird. Yes, riding in general, no, because I did my rehab. I felt comfortable, and I knew that I was strong. I wasn't going to let fear, set me back from wanting to do things again. I just listened to my doctors and my coaches.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Whirlybird. When did you do a whirlybird first?
It probably wasn't till I probably didn't do one before I went the next year to Singapore. I think I want to say it was like a year and a half later, and I landed with the first one I tried.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't really anything wrong with what you fell on.
And it was like full blown ripping in and just hucked it.
Okay, so moving on to the Fort Worth knee injury that you alluded to earlier. So you just mentioned that the rehab process for a knee injury to you seemed much more roller coaster different than your femur.
I mean, I've been fortunate enough to the doctor that I went to in Orlando. He was my doctor since day one, since first injury. So he knew that I wanted to return to wakeboarding, and he knew that his ability was not going to be in my best interest. He said, you need to go see Dr. Clancy at St. Andrews in Alabama, where all the football NFL players go and all the top athletes of the world. I went there, and it was probably the best decision of my life, because I don't think that I would be – it's such a huge impact of your recovery and how the surgery is done, of how they did it. I mean, it was a 9-hour surgery that they did. I went to rehab in the mornings for 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. So I packed up my stuff, and I moved to Alabama for, I want to say, the first four weeks. And I stayed with Rob Coram. That was a judge.
Wow.
I stayed at his apartment. He lived in Alabama, so that saved me some money with him and his fiance or girlfriend at the time. And I'd go to rehab 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. And I put my work in. And I learned a lot about sports and a lot about rehab. And you know what? Rehab's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to be painful. They know what they're doing there. And they want movement. They want to keep the swelling down. But it's a totally different game when you get to a professional athletes and doctors of how you treat an injury. I mean, you look at people that get injured most of the time, that's bothering them the rest of their lives. That's because they didn't do the right therapy. They weren't given the right process to move forward.
Yeah. And
that was definitely a game changer, because that was a terrible injury, ACL. And it was in Dallas on a Friday, in Texas, competing, last trick, second pass. So, and I thought I was going to nail the trick, but it was a hard recovery. It was ups and downs, and it was just like, when is this going to happen? And knee swelling after rides, and how do you know if you should, what your knee can withhold? And because of that therapy that I did, I never even wore a knee brace. I was just one of them reached out to me, and they made me and sent me 2 of them, and I even did like this video thing on their knee brace, and I never wore one because I felt like it was restricting, and I did enough rehab. My goal in rehab, we made a goal of, let's make it strong enough where you don't need a security blanket. You don't need anything, and that's what we did. And I haven't injured my knee since. So, it was the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
And, even if you're not happy with someone's decision of what they're diagnosing you with, always get a second opinion, get a third opinion of what you should do about it. Because I was also diagnosed with AVN at one point in my career. You don't probably know this. And avascular necrosis, which is death to the hip. And if you look at my femur on both legs, this is nice and round on this one, and this one is all degrading and shattered, and you can see it. And he diagnosed me with AVN, which vascular necrosis. He said, Bo Jackson, for instance, ruined his career. Basically, it's death to the head of the femur, and eventually it's going to collapse, and you have to get resurfacing, bone grafting, or hip replacement. So I traveled all over the country to 3 different places that were as a reference from people that said to go to these places. They all 3 told me differently. One said bone grafting, one said resurfacing, and the other one said hip replacement.
So what's...
It was the hip replacement one, and they weren't even a sports-specific place. They were actually the biggest hip replacement down in St. Petersburg, here in Florida,
Okay.
and St. Pete. And he said hip replacement, but then he did he looked at my x-rays and MRIs from when I first was diagnosed with it to the current, which was almost a year. And I wasn't riding much then because of that. And he looked at him and he said, there's not really a change. He said, yes, you did have AVN at some point. You lost your blood supply and it was dying. But there hasn't been any changes from then till now.
Has it gotten worse?
He said, the body's miraculous. I think you regained your blood supply doing these massages and doing your physical therapy movement stuff to keep my body moving. Because I started doing things like that because I couldn't, I felt stuck and I felt like I had no oxygen in my hip. And I regained my blood supply somehow. And just going to a third doctor that didn't know anything about sports, but just took an extra look at something and didn't overlook it. Like, I did regain my blood supply and I didn't need surgery or bone grafting or hip replacement. And to come back from that, like, that was a career ending. My original doctor said, this is
absolutely
your hip's going to collapse. It's going to happen. It's inevitable, basically.
It's got to be kind of a nice relief in a sense of.
I was devastated.
Right,
I started crying in the doctor's office that day. And I actually have, my mom has it on video. It was devastating.
The right one. The one that's hurting you. If you look over here, you can see it should be nice and white and rounded in the ball. And you see the black areas here and here. That means that the blood supply has been interrupted to the head of the femur, right here and here. It means you have AVN, avascular necrosis.
And my dad drove 3 hours from where he was working just to see me that day to pray with me, and because I was so upset.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do. And Ferraro was probably the only one that knew about it.
At the time?
Well, probably still to today, because I didn't know what to do. I had sponsors that were paying me. I was in the middle of seeing different doctors, not knowing what to do about it. And because I remember emailing him the video and what the doctor said and stuff like that. But yeah.
Wow.
Miracle.
Absolutely. Dallas Friday, battling some wild injuries. So what year would you say that you found out that you were on the path back to with your AVN? You were
AVN, that would have been before Red Bull, possibly.
Oh, it was that early.
It was that, no. Okay, no. It would have been 2000. When did I buy my house? Because I was in my new. I was in the house I live now.
16, 17, maybe.
No, not that house. I sold that house, and then I bought a new.
You're flipping real estate.
I can't remember what age I was. And I wish I did, because
but you were younger.
I was. Yeah, I can't remember. I honestly can't remember. But I did live in my house, and I bought my house in 2000 when I was 19.
Okay.
So, I'm 37. So.
And that's the house you're still in?
Mm-hmm.
Same one? 5 doors down from your parents?
Yeah.
Okay.
But my dad was working. So that was probably 15 years ago. 15 years ago, I'd say I was probably diagnosed with that.
Wow. And to this day, you're okay?
I didn't have a boyfriend at the time. I always think what boyfriend was I dating at the time. But yeah, I probably was like lower, maybe 21, 22.
Okay.
Is my guess.
I mean, we're talking peak of your career.
Peak of my career, yes. In the middle of my career.
Yeah.
Very much so. And that's what was so devastating. And that's why I kept it a secret.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's your business at the end of the day, right? So it's,
well, I just didn't know. We didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And we had to take care of it. And it was the wintertime, and I was going around trying to figure out, it's my career over, basically.
Yeah. And thankfully, it ended up not being that way. So to this day, you've had several of those injuries. How is it all working out now? I mean, knee injury, your leg, your back, all that, everything.
Honestly, and again, I'm going to come back to like just God's timing and God's plan. I feel like everyone's been put in my life, and everything that's happened, it's been for a reason. And at the time, it might seem just defeated, just so defeated, and feel disappointed and hurt, and just that you're at rock bottom. but then yet there's a new window that opens, and God's carried me through, and it's made me who I am, and I think it's made me trust in what I'm doing and what God's plans are, and I always know that no matter what happens, that I'm gonna be okay, and truly the best is to come.
You're still killing it to this day, right?
I'm loving life, and I'm hating life. A lot of good, but I'm enjoying my kids. I love teaching them new things. My son's going to be, he was doing 3 pull-ups by the age of 3. My daughter is so fast. She's so creative, and they're so competitive. I mean, my kids are just, they're insanely talented.
They're their mother's kids, is what
yes.
You're saying. Okay. Okay, so I want to talk about, you're talking about your kids now, kind of the future and where you're at nowadays. But before we get into that, I said we were going to talk about the flats. So I want to talk about going to the flats. So back in the day, it was a lot more common than it is now. And you were kind of off before the podcast. We were talking about how you ride differently. Back then, you used to swing out, still do, but swing out really far, long rope length.
You swing out. When you can't swing out anymore, the first thing that happens is you set the direction of your board. Then you sit, then you apply your shoulders. And it has to be in that order to get the right kind of approach, the right tension and support in the line, to be able to use the arc, is what we'd call it, is the arc, is using the transition from where you start to when you're hitting the wake, using the arc to land on a nice edge and just continue it, almost like S-turns of snowboarder or a slalom skier. Imagine if someone was filming from above and you saw their wakes from
Big,
when they went
wide
by.
S's, yeah.
And that was always my style of riding.
Okay, so back then, I think that is a very interesting, I think it's cool to watch from the boat, from shore, from anywhere, people going so wide, cutting across, going to the flats. We're talking about Randall. A lot of riders have done it. But do you think that maybe the larger wakes of today that's kind of producing the shortcut in, go wake to wake, do the tricks, land, has taken a small aspect of the coolness of wakeboarding behind the boat away because you don't have such a wow factor of going so far out, cutting in for so long, hitting the wake, going so far into the flats?
I just think wakeboarding, the technology and just where it's come, the wakes are so much bigger than what they used to be. I mean, I'd be scared to hit a double up nowadays, but I used to hit a double up every time the boat turned. I did toe side and heel side double ups. And it's just different. So with those bigger wakes, you have a lot of injury. There's a lot of what ifs.
Yeah.
And I think to be consistent and I think it's just changed because
That's
of
just
that.
what the sport kind of is right
Yeah,
now.
because of the wakes bigger. Of course, we always wanted big wakes. We'd pull our plugs and fill them up with water so we could have big wakes. And yeah, that's just kind of where it's gone. And look what that's done. Double flips, triple flips. I mean, I didn't see that. I saw it I'm not on Instagram all the time. But when you see that, I was like, stop. I was like, no way. In a contest for the first time. Now that's a cool moment in a sport that events like that are really different create.
Kind of full circle there. I like that. Speaking of the triple, anything, what gets you stoked on wakeboarding right now besides the triple?
Teaching my kids and helping riders feel something, do something new that's helped me, or going out and just doing what I want to do, which isn't often, because typically when you ride, you're going out and getting ready for a contest. That's Tara used to say, Dallas, she would pull me a lot right before an event, just no warm up, run right off the dock. And would I do that today? Yeah. Would I probably land it? Yes. Now, if you want me to go out and do a bunch of grabs and just play around, that'd be a little bit squirrely. But that's how I trained,
So how often would you say you ride now?
Right now?
I mean, I would say in general. Throughout a summer.
Last year, I rode a lot more. I've had a lot of personal issues I've had to take care of. And and my kids, it's just been a lot. But once or twice a week.
Okay. So still quite often.
But right now, I haven't rode since probably, I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Like, maybe twice since nationals.
When was nationals? August? September? I don't remember.
Probably twice since national. I've been out on the boat a lot since then. That's with my kids or taking someone else out, wake surfing. It's just the off season. Once it's over, it's kind of like, all right.
Things die down, they slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you said you don't go on Instagram much, but do you still kind of keep up with wakeboarding, follow some riders these days? A little bit, at least? I mean, you could say
yeah,
no.
no, I do. But I don't know if I want to say it.
I mean, you're busy. Sounds like you're busy in your life right now, which is fine.
I am. I just feel like a lot of stuff I see, it's just not, it's just nothing that's going to.
Doesn't get you inspired?
Not that. I just don't have, rather than being in my phone, I'm taking my kids to softball practice and coaching and just do, I'm one of those people, I just like to be doing stuff. It's really just like I don't like doing emails.
Okay. I mean, are there any names of riders that you either watch at contests or you ride with that get you stoked these days?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't. That sounds horrible. What I said, that I don't like. I'm not interested in wakeboarding. I totally love.
No, I'm not. I don't think anyone's going to think that.
The team challenge this year, it was. I love watching people just go out with a different atmosphere of like, it's not individual, and just the camaraderie between the riders and seeing them ride. Like, it's insane the stuff I'm seeing now. And so effortlessly, it's just ridiculous. And the girls' riding levels stepped up tremendously. Like, it's just insane to me. I'd say all the girls that were on tour this year, all of them just made statements. And that's what it's about. It's about going out there and getting it and doing what you do in practice and pushing your riding. I can't believe I just blinked out. The girl that lands double flip.
Huge.
I think she's been such a fresh breath of air.
Yeah.
And her and Jamie Lapina, like
Jamie
being
Lapina's
able to go off the dock after one of those two girls, because they go out there, they could be first off the dock, we're in the hard heat, and they just go out there and they look like they have fun and they're stylish and they just charge it. And I'm like, I love riding after you because you just set this vibe that's just. I'm
going to have way more fun now than I would have.
Yeah, and just their attitudes, and it's just everything about them, and it's just, all of them are so great, And then Megan going out there, and Mary Morgan going out there, and just throwing down like a technical, really good run, like just a solid run, but with confidence. It's just really good to see.
Yeah.
It's really shown where women's wakeboarding's gotten, because for a while, for a good 10-year period, it was, who's going to get that sounds horrible, who's going to get second, but, I mean, it would just be.
So you would say that women's wakeboarding behind the boat's in a pretty good place. You'd buy some stock right now. It's kind of on the
not as far as.
I mean, you're liking what you're saying. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, women's wakeboard. I think that we couldn't have any better girls, and the riding level couldn't be any better. I think as far as what sponsors ask us to do and what sponsors are promoting, I think could take a better intake.
What do you mean by that?
I mean. It's this is why I'm not like, it's sales, and just social media has just lost its way in sports. I feel like instead of going out and trying 720s and doing big grabs, we're doing butt pictures and smiles and fake photos of how perfect we may look in our lives, maybe, because that's what gets viewers and that's what your sponsors want, or more followers. And our industry, and being a girl, butt pictures is what's going to get liked. And it's really sad for me to just see that. When I want to go see someone either like just eat crap, like a really hard fall, like that's the kind of stuff I'll look at on Instagram, or like a trick tip of some sort. And I just want to see more of that. And I think if
more of the real stuff.
Like more involved with how can we help our riders progress their riding and achieve their goals, and build a community that's stronger and just for the good, not just for our sales, but for my children, that set a good example. But in that matter versus sales, likes, and posts. And I get that. I totally get that's part of just the way the world works. It is. It really, truly is. but I won't cave into it. Keep doing butt shots all day and just like it's just I like going and playing golf and going to the driving range and wake surfing and washing my, like, those are the kind of stuff I'm going to post, the real shots of my lifestyle versus I don't know what you're doing. A selfie's not going to do it for me.
I would agree.
But
build the community. The sales will come as if you have a strong community, I believe.
Yeah,
so that's
and
an
I think
important
doing
key.
something like different like that is what may get people's attention, like, and what may bring in those outside sponsors or outside industries that want to be a part of it or have a charity event and do something that's not just about making money or just doing your job, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
But about bringing a community together and industry together, but also helping your riders achieve their dreams. Because that's what my sponsors have always done. They help me achieve my dreams. And I think that's, rather than working for someone or riding for someone, that's just, you're going to bring them sales or likes. I mean, how is that going to help you better yourself in your life? It's truly not when you think about it like that.
It's true. Let's talk technical stuff. So rope length, board size, stance. If you were to take a set today, what would you be?
I feel like everything we've talked about is technical. So, right now I have the Centurion RI 230. I ride that fully weighted. I do take out some out of the back because I ride so long. I ride at 23.9 at 81.5 feet. What else did you want to know?
Board size, stance.
Board side, I love the one. I mean, it's a classic. It's a great board and it's a great shape. It's a 135.
135. Okay.
135. I think I'm still riding the one from like last 2 years ago. I don't know. I haven't changed to the new report I had. And then the RXT boots.
Okay.
The RXT boots.
What angles do you know at?
15 and 15.
15, 15. Okay.
I used to go 12, 15. Then I got confused and I said 15, 15.
So almost you were a little directional, but not anymore.
Does that mean I'm
You're ducked at 15.
I am
right?
ducked?
Oh, yeah.
Does that mean I'm ducked?
15,
I'm not
15.
super ducked. I'm one in at 15, 15.
I would say 15 is pretty ducked.
Really?
I think, right? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's ducked nowadays.
I don't know. It's true. I don't know what people ride at more than 15, but will you ever stop wakeboarding? That's a not technical question there. That's an easy one.
No. Will I ever stop wakeboarding? No. I like to think that when I'm 60, I could go out there and wrap up and do my KGB first try probably before I could do a wake jump because that's just what I've done my entire life. No.
Okay.
Will I ever stop being involved? No. Like, I still want to see. I think our sport deserves, and there's so many great women riders out there that there should be an ESPY award winner in our future. There should be women in the X Games. There should be on the cover of ESPN magazine. There should be someone on, on your local news and just on more pre-press stuff.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully it happens soon in the future. And I want to be involved in any way I can help with that.
It's not a one-person effort, so it's that you're still in it is, I think, crucial for women's, competitive.
I mean,
boat
who
riding,
else
boat
is going
riding in
to
general.
talk about how there used to be back in the day when you wake surf, you take all the fat sacks and you move them to one side of the boat, and then if someone surfed the other side, you'd have to drain it. And I remember wakeboarding before all of that. It's crazy to think now there's a wedge that creates of how you want the wake shape, and to be a part of that, truly be a part of creating a wedge and creating surf gates and things like that. Brian Grove, it's us riders that have been involved in the industry for that long that created all those things. It's pretty crazy to think about.
Absolutely
Do everything,
is.
push a button and a wedge. It's insane.
There's a lot of crazy technology, that's for sure. Speaking of tricks, what's your least favorite trick to do? Another non-technical question.
That's a trick that I do, but my least favorite trick?
Yeah, one you don't like doing.
Like in my run?
Sure.
Or
in general. Say you're playing a game of wake and someone pulls out that trick. I really don't want to do
anything
that.
switch, because I don't, and that's why anything switch. I've landed a switch front flip once, and it was to fakie, and my head barely cleared the water. I almost died. I tried to switch Rayleigh once, and I did a switch front flip, and that's where Mike said try to switch front flip. And yeah, I should have died. Yeah. But when I started wakeboarding, switch wasn't big. I wish I would have rode switch. But once you ride one way for 15 years and people start saying switch, it
doesn't add up.
No, it really doesn't.
Okay, kind of in a different vein, what would you say is the most underrated trick in wakeboarding? One that doesn't get enough love. You do it and it's like, didn't get the pup it deserved.
I'm trying to think.
Mine
doesn't get enough.
Mine is a switch method because you love switch so much, but switch method is my answer.
I want to say that like those old school tricks that like JD, like Shoto would do, like Dean, anything out into the flats that was like a glide. I would call it a glide, but they would call it like a big air shifty. Like Adam Arrington used to do, like just like big glide, and then last go to back one.
Okay, so not full on like Rayleigh.
No,
blind,
something big
like
out in the
halfway.
flats that was like it, but then to go blind.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah. And then TikTok out. I haven't seen anyone do that in a long time.
Whoa.
Remember TikTok
Yeah, I think
days?
you lost me at TikTok
I actually
out.
commented on someone's Instagram the other day. I forget what I saw and what it was, and I never do that. And I said, you should TikTok out. Now TikTok out of that. I was like,
you a fan of the TikTok?
I think
they
it
scare me
makes
from being honest.
Exactly because it's, and I was thinking that would be so much harder and so much cooler, and it was already something I was amazed with to like actually catch my attention. I was like, they should TikTok out of that. It would be freaking insane.
I'm not a fan of the TikTok, but when you, I don't know. All right.
But I don't even know if I'm a fan of it, but the fact of the matter is that it's like borderline.
There's
you
no
might
denying
die.
that. There's no
You
denying
might
that.
die.
Yeah, I'm with you there. We got a Patreon question from Wesley Mark Jacobson, and he's wondering what you think about street wakeboarding, aka winching.
Oh, he'll like this. I remember when just cable boards came out, and I was like, "What are those wobble things called?" Like they were just cable boards. I'm like, "What's the
wobble
the wobble boards?" I called them wobble boards. Winching, I like trucks. And I like being outdoors. I love the projects. I love going out to the projects. I've never really winched before. Would it be something that I would like to do or see me doing? I see me doing it and being entertaining and just really just set myself up for something not good.
Well, I mean, not to this day, but in terms
like I'm looking at that.
it?
The stuff that I see in winching is just insane.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of stuff that I don't think God really blessed me or wants me to do or dabble into. I like my face. I like being able to walk.
But in terms of consuming content, you you think it's cool to watch? I mean,
Oh,
you enjoy?
yes. As far as the wow factor, like, could I see that in slow mo again? That's what kind of gets your attention to that kind of stuff. That's just
Okay. So would you say you're a fan then? You like the street wakeboarding?
yeah, as long as it's
No,
not
you don't do it.
stupidity. Stupidity.
What would be stupid?
Hurricane coming through and trying to wakeboard through like some little town and just like getting like just ridiculous. Like,
Okay.
what are you doing?
I get you there.
Like, it's people that know what they're doing and they're building something. There's a goal and there's a game plan, and it's like something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you there. So we were talking about, your mom, obviously. I'm curious if being pregnant or pregnancy has ever been in any of your contracts in terms of.
It was after that.
Okay, run through that because I've always wondered.
Malibu. I don't even know. Can I get in trouble? No, thank you.
No,
Whatever. Malibu and Red Bull. It was part of put it in the contract. So I'm pretty sure that when Red Bull wanted me to sign as being a part of their Legend program, it was about pregnancy or injury. They made it seem more so injury.
Kind of like
anything
an umbrella thing.
injury related or where you cannot do your job or performing or task of such sorts or pregnancy or something about, I don't know. But yeah, it was put in there for sure.
Do you think, to put it
Not
blankly,
in Centurion, not my Centurion contract. No.
Yeah.
But anyone else that doesn't want to have to is going to be maybe a lawsuit brought up against them against pregnancy and working, and I don't know.
do you think that's fair to have that? Because men can't have that. Obviously, men cannot get pregnant. So
I mean, I could see from a business standpoint, it may be smart, especially if you didn't have someone like me that's not going to come back. The first thing you probably would think is that their career is going to be over. And I mean, where do they go from here?
Yeah.
And I kind of get it in that aspect, but I mean, if you know your riders and you have relationships with them, I mean, you talk to them, you know what's going on in their head, and you know that if they're telling you they're going to come back or whether there's just like it's just different.
Okay. So I think that what you just hit on there is super important, is the human aspect of less dollars and cents and sales, and just get to know the person that is.
It's like a handshake, you know. You don't need me to sign something. It's a handshake and me just say, you know, giving you my word and doing what you're saying you're gonna do. And
Absolutely. That's interesting. I was wondering that. Okay, so I think this is a good kind of.
And you know what I don't like about what people are doing on people's contracts? They're putting caps on their bonuses and success. I hear about them and I get it if it's like, but I mean, if they're winning, if you're winning events,
why cap success?
Why are you not gonna incentive me riding good in events or getting more views? So even though that's what you want, but yet I'm doing it, but now you don't want to pay me for it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make sense to me. Does that make sense?
It makes
maybe someone
sense.
else will do it.
Yeah.
Maybe
break the mold. Be the other. Be the one that doesn't do it. Does it differently. So I'm curious, kind of question to not wrap this up, but towards the end here, if you could go back and relive one moment in your career, what would it be?
One moment in my career,
one moment, because you've had a lot of big moments. I guess you don't have to narrow it down to one. You can do a few if you got a few, but
if I could relive one moment,
yeah. Besides when we finish the podcast, doing the podcast again, because it was so fun.
It would be dropping the ball at a clinic that I did once, and I had a fight with a boyfriend, and I wasn't feeling well, and I just kind of just didn't care, and I didn't show up, and I didn't inspire anyone or do anything that I would have even wanted to remember. I wish I could erase that time. And I just kind of, dropped the ball and just wasn't me. And just I'm embarrassed that I allowed life and just that to get in the way of inspiring young girls that are paying to meet and be around me. Because it's one thing I regret. So I'd say that probably that.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. I mean, are there any good moments, or because that's a moment that you want to go back and either erase.
But that's what I would want to do differently.
Do differently there. Are there any moments that were larger than life that you were like, wow, that would be
there's so many. There's so many. I'd say, like I said, after winning the Worlds, after my baby, like I just
big one.
There's so many. They're all moments of not, going around at Masters at Callaway Gardens, like seeing my family on shore where they'd always sit. I have that like in my memory, like deep down in I could never leave, and going around and them just waving and cheering and just kind of like eyeing them on the shoreline. And that just being a huge part of just who I am and how I got here. Any other big moments?
Those are two huge ones.
Yeah. I mean, it's more moments and just it's not actually victories, because you don't mean achievements. What's my biggest achievement or accomplishment?
No.
Okay. Yeah. I'd say that.
One of those take it all in moments like this. These are the days that people talk about when I'm here. And these are the days that.
Yeah.
But those two were good answers. So what's the future hold for Dallas Friday?
Okay. Just when I couldn't sound any more crazier. And as bad as my swing may look right now. I just hope I love the golf right now. I've never gotten really a chance to do anything else besides wakeboarding and commit my whole life and career to that and put it in. And, ever since I picked up a golf club, it's probably the hardest sport. I just love every part about it. And I just want to be involved. And whether that be an Attempt TiVo charity event or going out with Charles Barkley and just shooting.
Has he fixed his swing? Has his swing got a little bit better?
God, we could maybe have a contest of whose is more terrible. No, I don't know. Like I said, I vision things and they happen. I feel like I need to keep doing what I'm doing. I want my kids. My kids are involved in every type of sport. My kids are in violin. They're in chess. They're in softball. They're in football. What else?
Soccer? Got any soccer going on or no?
No.
No?
Well,
you said no, like, no, absolutely not.
Soccer was, I think my kids are going to be like me. Soccer's not in their genes. I am a sprinter, but not an endurance.
Not a runner. Okay, I got you.
And they do golf too. They went to Dubster Golf Camp. So I want to create giving them as many opportunities as I can. And they do boxing. And I love boxing too.
Okay.
And then they decide.
Yeah.
You know what they're passionate
Give them
about.
everything, expose
and it's
them to
only
it
going to
all.
make them more aware. And I've seen it happen slowly. Their minds are so sharp with anything that they're doing. And I feel like there was any type of situation, I feel like them just being involved in sports and just being around people and social and just knowing how to focus in on stuff, that it's really impacting their life and who they're going to be and how they react to things. And I love that. I love that they're living and they're learning to the fullest, full
Absolutely.
throttle. And hopefully getting Jason and other people, Jason from Women's Wake League, to just think outside the box, you know, and just because there's one way that everyone doesn't mean it's the way you got to do it. And hopefully impacting and influencing wakeboarding in a way that, you know, makes a difference and carves a better future for whether that be future athletes or whether that be the sport in general. You know, I love sports and what they've done for my life, and they've changed it, truly have, and to let people see it for that and why I love it versus it being a sale or your job, I think it's just something I feel responsible to do because that's the legacy of who we are and why we do what we do and love.
So always staying involved, Dallas Friday.
Always staying involved.
I like it. To wrap up, you were talking earlier, Mike Ferraro said you could be the first women's wakeboarder to make $1 million. Did you make $1 million from wakeboarding?
I'm sure that I did. I'm sure that I did at some point. Do I have $1 million to show for it? No, my house is over worth $1 million. But do I have anything to show for it right now? Not
so
really.
You could say Mike Ferraro was right, though.
But you know what? The Mike Ferraro experience, this building relationships and the sponsors, and just being involved and seeing how the sport's changed and grown is, I take that any day over the $1 million.
Yeah.
You know, it's been an experience of a lifetime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about or anybody you want to thank before we wrap this up?
I just want to thank, my family. My parents have been a huge part of my life, and they still are. And they've always directed me, you know, down the right path. And I've you know, done some things that I am not proud of, but they've always been there for me. I want to thank the Lord just for staying in my life, and even when I'm not present with Him, He's always present, pushing in to be a part of my life, and He's done more for me than anything, you know. And then just my friends and the people that are close to me that are always there for me, despite if I'm winning, losing, golfing, whatever it may be. It's
awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. This was a great chat. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Join the Patreon if you want to support the podcast. Other than that, wrap it up. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time.